Hello, good morning. Good morning, guys. Bharat Bothra, good morning. Madhav Kabra, Naman Agarwal, Siddharth Agarwal, Anup Kumar, Ronak Suchanti, Shaurya Malik, Piyush Nigania, Ishita Lal. Piyush is asking, sir, will you cover the entire theory? I have just this one session in hand, in one session as much as possible. Revision duration is approximately 3 hours. Muskan, good morning. Kaushal, good morning. Rohit Patwari, hello. Priya Sharma, Sakshi Jhajaria, Fazita Fazil. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So, first question is, how many of you are giving exam in November? That is tomorrow. How many of you are giving exam tomorrow? Just write to tomorrow. Just write tomorrow. I will understand. How many of you are giving exam tomorrow? Just type tomorrow. I will understand. Anup is saying that because of live revision, he is able to wake up early today. Same here, Anup. I almost have woken up at this time almost after 6 months. Great. So many of you are giving exam tomorrow. Very nice. Aditya is giving in May. Rest all tomorrow. Madhav is in January. Okay, very good. So this creates a new responsibility on me that I cannot waste your time. Most of you are giving exam tomorrow, so I cannot waste any of your time. Okay, great. I'll just start in next 2-3 minutes. Yes, video will be available in YouTube. Video will be available in YouTube. Don't worry about that. This video will be available in YouTube. See, first thing is I will be doing this entire session in English first of all. Why? Because there have been several requests from our students of South India also that why don't I teach in English. So I thought that this revision session will be in English, and if you will hear properly, my English is not very superficial kind of, it is very simple to understand. I'm speaking only in English since so long, so it is very easy to understand. I don't use high vocabularies, big words. I use simple English, so it is easy for you to understand, I hope. If in case any question still remains because of sudden change in my language for you, you can always raise your questions. Okay, so Ronak Suchanti is asking कितने टाइम का रिवीजन है आज? Approximately 3 hours. Approximately 3 hours. Today we will run class for approximately 3 hours non-stop. So if you have to eat, bring on the study table, okay, or take your mobile or laptop in whichever mode you are studying on your dining table. So don't get yourself distracted, don't ask for any break. It is 3 hours marathon. Okay, we will start, but we will stop only once we are through with our targets of today. Okay, so first of all, First of all, before starting, I would like to let you know that today I am going to teach you only theory matters. What I am going to teach you is only theory of your SCM subject. I am not going to touch any practical portion. The agenda of today's session is to cover only theory. Second, this theory would be covered from our latest summary book, SCM Savior. This theory would be covered from our latest summary book named SCM Savior. Say if you don't have this book at present in your hand, then you can still follow whatever I will teach you. You can note down key points simultaneously if possible. Just key points or keywords or whatever resource you have, your class material, your institute material, you can just open that page and follow there. That is also possible. Okay, so whatever I will teach will be all obviously as your syllabus. If you find something extra here, just focus on it, take screenshots, keep it in your mobile, and that's how only you got to manage, because whatever I'm going to teach you is from this book only, SCM Savior. Got it? Secondly, first another announcement I would like to make, that for this exam I am available for you this date throughout the day after this webinar also, and in order to contact me I'm giving you one link, which is virtual.sgc.co.in/meetings/Satish Jalan. You can just take a note of this. And for today I have not kept any schedule for myself, since you all are having exam tomorrow, most of you are having exam tomorrow, and I got chance today to interact with you just before the day of exam. So I thought that if by chance you need my assistance during the day, I am available by using this link. You can book a meeting with me. Okay, today I have stretched my time schedule. I have not kept anything else other than to meet you. So if you feel that you need to meet me or you need to discuss anything with me, you have any queries to ask, you can just book a meeting with me on this link and I would be available for you. And in general also, today I have stretched my time in hand for you, but in general also I am available to interact with you in this meeting link. So if you are not willing to talk with me today or interact with me today for any reason, then for next available day also, as per my availability, I mark my calendar over there, so you can book a time slot with me to interact. So you can just take a note of this link and we will take it up. Okay, so let us start. Okay, let us start. I will first pick up the most important chapter, which we are calling as performance evaluation model. I will first pick up the most important chapter, which is performance evaluation model. In your syllabus, as you know, we say SCM and PE. In PE, what all chapters come? Usually students have notion that PE means only performance evaluation model, but it is not. PE is performance evaluation model. Then it is also covering divisional transfer pricing. Thirdly, it is also covering budgetary control. And fourthly, it is covering standard costing. So I thought that first I will take up with you performance evaluation part only. That means this 4 set of chapters, and if time permits, then I will switch to other chapters of SCM as well, whatever chapters apart from this 4 are there. In exam, you can expect that this 4 will be comprising of at least 30 marks. At least 30 marks would be there from this 4 chapters. So this is PE part as per your institute material, and this comprises of these 4 chapters. Now if I come to SCM Xavier book, performance evaluation model comprises of several chapters. Performance evaluation model in itself comprises of several chapters as per Xavier book. So first chapter that is to be covered here is balance scorecard. Second chapter that will be covered here is performance prism. Third, I will cover performance pyramid. Fourth, I will cover building block model. Fifth, I will cover performance management for not for profit sector. Performance management for not for profit sector. Got it? And lastly, I will also cover benchmarking here. So this total comprises of performance evaluation model. Okay, so let me start with balance scorecard. I will start with balance scorecard. In this book, as you know, I have arranged the content two ways. One is all A to Z. So balance scorecard is in page number 13. Another is as per ICAI MAT. Okay, so first I am coming to page number 13. Yes, balance scorecard. See, in exam it can always be a question. One question already has come from this in previous attempt, whereby in transfer pricing they were asking something related to balance scorecard. So balance scorecard is by Dr. David Kaplan and Dr. David Norton. You may not need their names, but still balance scorecard is basically invented by Dr. Robert Kaplan and Dr. David Norton. First, in understanding balance scorecard concept, what you need to know is CSF and KPI. CSF is critical success factor and KPI is key performance indicator. When we say CSF, it means that what you need to do in order to achieve your mission or vision. See, I may not be reading this entire thing. I will be telling you things in short so that we cover more aspects. I will not be reading things for you word by word. I will not go into depth, but I want to give you a synopsis of whatever to be remembered, key things to be remembered. So first is critical success factor. It is signifying what you need to do. So the idea here is to know represents what. Okay, in order to achieve your mission, vision and objectives. So keyword is strategic objectives. Okay, so it defines your objectives. And how do you determine what will be your critical success factor? It depends on several situations or several outside factors, which is sometimes it is because of industry structure. There are some industry which will only flourish if you have some specific success factor implemented in your organization too. For example, a car manufacturing company cannot succeed if it doesn't have good dealers network. For example, mobile company cannot succeed if it doesn't have good service center structure. So that is industry structure. Secondly, competitive strategy means that you need to see how your competitors are acting along with you. If you have any differentiation in your product, then only you will be able to succeed. So you need to have differentiation. That is a critical success factor. Thirdly, it is environmental facts. Sometimes because of environmental factors, you need to change your strategy of doing business. You might be doing something which is causing harm to the environment, If that is there, then you will have to change your plant and machinery, or maybe design of the product, or maybe sometimes the product itself. So all those sometimes play an important role, and many times, say, fuel costs are rising, or maybe coal supply is decreasing, so that is affecting your business drastically. So that can become a critical success factor. In order to have your system running, you may need more and more fuel. So availability of fuel will be a critical success factor for your business. Temporary influence, sometimes like this pandemic is there, so there is a temporary influence of things to make it digitize, to allow employees to work from home. So something like this, it can be a critical success factor, or maybe that because of some certain change in regulation you have to modify your product recalls means you are recalling your product from your customer in order to service the product and give it back to them. Next is functional managerial position. Sometimes for our functional managers, concern is there that production manager is more thinking about how to perform, how to give the best of quality, how to give the best of quality. So functional managerial position is there sometimes, which actually functional managerial position is there sometimes which actually creates, you can say, internally a situation where you are focusing on critical success factor such as quality, which others may not in your industry follow. So these are some of the ideas that you need to bear in standard costing questions. Usually we have seen that in our past papers, or I say MAT, that they have given some questions where you have to identify critical success factor by reading the case study. So how will you identify? See, it is very tough actually to identify sometimes. If you will have to read the question and then only you will understand what is the motto of the company. But still, if you remember this 1 2 3 4 5 points, you will get some masala, some writing things which you can always write. Okay, so first is like industry structure, then differentiation, then temporary influence, then environmental facts, then it can be some quality, which is a focus of the production manager or any other functional manager. And what are KPIs? KPIs are the basis of measurement of what you do. So whatever you are doing, you need to measure it, otherwise you will not know whether you are able to do it or not. So in order to measure, you need to have some quantifiable aspects of whatever you plan to do. For example, if you plan to do setup for car dealer network, then how will you measure that whether you've been able to do it or not? Then the KPI of that will be number of dealers enlisted. Okay, so similarly, competitive strategy, if you are trying to focus on differentiation, if you are focusing on differentiation, then what would be its KPI? How will you measure whether you have been able to differentiate or not? So number of new products launched or number of new features added to the products. So something quantifiable need to be added to each of the critical success factor in order to understand whether you have been able to achieve what you were looking for or not. So when you are setting up KPI, you need to be smart. Smart means your KPI should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time bound. Okay, so ultimately what does KPI do? It complements CSF. It helps you to achieve your CSF. What is a balanced scorecard? Balanced scorecard is saying you might have several CSF, but you need to categorize them well. If you don't categorize them, you will lose track of it. You will not be able to focus more. Sometimes in exam also you will see that there are case studies where they are randomly just asking you to create critical success factor and asking your KPI against it. There is no model to be applied. Okay, so in recent MTP November 20 also there was one question related to that, where they were just asking you to give some CSF and its KPI. So when they are asking that, that is an easy question, but if you have a model which actually helps you to categorize your CSF in terms of something, then it becomes more easy to implement because there will be more guidelines to work upon the model. So balanced scorecard is a model which categorizes your CSF into 4 perspectives. The first perspective is, always remember, financial. If you are writing any perspective as first, that is actually not giving you more credibility to write the answer. It may decrease your value of the answer. So whenever you are writing the 4 perspectives, you will write the 4 perspectives in a sequence. The sequence is, first of all, always it will be financial, second it will be customer, third it will be internal business, and fourth it will be learning and innovation, learning and growth. Sometimes innovation I insist you to write along with internal business, or you can write innovation term with learning and growth and innovation. So what this 4 perspective is all about? First, financial. Financial is first because ultimate business result is finance. So we all need to know that whether our business is actually achieving the shareholders' expectation or not. And secondly, if you have surplus finance in hand, then only you will be able to focus on the rest of the 3 perspectives. So finance actually decides your main goal of the business, as well as it decides how much you want to work in other perspectives also. Second is customer. Second is what? Customer. Second perspective is customer. And when we are talking about customer perspective, we are saying that what is our customer expectation from us? What is our customer expectation from us? What our market wants? Sometimes individual customer wants, sometimes market wants. What we should do in order to satisfy them more? What we should do in order to satisfy them more? That is customer satisfaction or customer perspective. And third is internal business, which means that what internal process you need to align in order to achieve what customers are looking for, which are necessary to achieve the objectives as identified in financial and customer perspective. So whatever our customers are looking for, we need to do something for that internally. If we have to ensure on-time delivery, we need to do some process internally so that we are able to meet their expectation of on-time delivery. So in case of internal business perspective, what we are saying that what we need to do in order to achieve what we are looking for in customer perspective, or maybe financially we want to more increase our profit, so we need to reduce our cost. So what internally we need to do to reduce our cost? So that is internal business. And lastly, learning, growth and innovation. Innovation can also be written here. Okay, so in this we are trying to increase the capabilities of our employees, our system, and we want to develop a good organization culture so that whenever growth is coming, these people are able to handle, our system is able to handle everything. So it is all about employee capabilities, system and organization culture and procedures. So this is your balance scorecard. Balance scorecard has got some limitations. Limitation is what? It is measuring too many aspects. It is not focusing on one aspect. It is measuring 4 categories. So it is measuring too many aspects. It is non-copyable, non-delegatable. You cannot delegate it to your subordinates and leave everything on them. Sometimes it is having difficulties with KPIs, ascertaining which KPI will be applicable for which perspective. Okay, and in general what we say is, when we study balance scorecard, remember for every perspective there is an objective, and then with objective there is KPI. You can take a screenshot of this if you don't have this mat, because I will wish that you must learn this, because what happens is sometimes in question they will give you case study, and there they will ask you to find the objective of each of the perspective and then KPI for each. So if you remember some names, then what is these names, you can always copy paste as per the case study applicable. If some things match, you can use always straight away. This is the best part of this table, that what can happen is you can straight away copy paste. That is also possible. Just make sure that as per the case study it is also applicable in the scenario. Don't try to make it extremely outcasted, that something you are using which is actually not totally applicable. Whatever nearest is there, you must use it. So just try to remember this, that financial is there, then question will ask you what the objective, or which we say as critical success factor for the financial perspective, that can be improving shareholders wealth, and for that KPI measure will be ROCE. There can be other KPIs also. It can be EPS, okay, it can be dividend yield, whatever way you can say. There are several financial measures. I have just given you one example, and then you have to see whatever is applicable in your case study also. Then another financial motive can be, objective can be improving market share. So that can be done by measuring the sales volume, okay. Next, customer perspective can be on-time deliveries, customer satisfaction. These are some of our CSF, and in order to measure CSF we need what? KPIs. So you can just take a screenshot, and based on this you can try to just go through these things once again. And the best part of this table is you can use anywhere, whenever any CSF has to be linked with KPI. Okay, so I'm just moving ahead. Limitation I have done. Benefits is there. It focuses on both financial and non-financial. It considers need of all stakeholders. All stakeholders means basically specifically if I will say shareholders and customers primarily. We say in general it focuses more on shareholders and customers because those two are the first two that we think, and based on those two need we align internal business process, which I was sharing with you here. So benefits of BSc is what? It is focusing mostly on shareholder and customers. It will have long term impact, means the company will benefit in long term if it is having a BSc. And then management tool for internal and external reporting purposes. So it is basically a tool for reporting purpose as well. So the steps is I don't think that is very much needed for writing theory, but some things I am skipping because in my sense it may not be very important for you to for me to discuss right now with you. So you, if you have read it, you can just take a glance, but whatever is most important I am just giving you assistance in that. I am now switching to Performance Prism. Performance Prism you can open in your notes whatever you have. Let me go to Performance Prism. Yes. So Performance Prism, first of all I would like to bring your attention towards the difference between Balanced Scorecard and Performance Prism. So many times in a question they may ask you specifically like how is Performance Prism different from Balanced Scorecard. So Balanced Scorecard has got more focus on shareholder and customers as I shared, and since we are also thinking on learning and growth aspect, so we are also somehow focusing on employees, but the main focus is our shareholder and customers. But in case of Performance Prism, what happens is it says that whoever are your stakeholder, you may focus on that. It's not that you can only focus on the defined stakeholders. You can focus on any stakeholder. It focuses on all the stakeholders. I'm using any intentionally because that will help you to understand the model in actual. So focus is on all the stakeholders, but the idea of Performance Prism is it has to be on quid pro quo basis. Quid pro quo means if I have done something for you, what you will do for me. If I have done something for you, what you will do for me. So that is my quid pro quo status. So based on that quid pro quo, I will actually decide, based on this quid pro quo, I will decide which is my main stakeholder right now, and I will focus on that stakeholder's need and I will try to satisfy that stakeholder. But Balanced Scorecard does what? It actually continuously focuses on shareholders and customers primarily. So Balanced Scorecard has got defined focus. It is not defined any stakeholder. It is saying that whoever is important, I will focus on that. Then second is Balanced Scorecard is never altering the strategies as per the need of stakeholders. But Performance Prism will make or create new strategies as required for the stakeholders. Balanced Scorecard measures too many stuffs, but Performance Prism measures limited things because it has to focus only on one at a time. I will say Performance Prism focuses on one stakeholders at a time, okay. So Performance Prism, what it is? You see, Performance Prism is having 6 facets. Usually it has 6 sides. So accordingly we have 6 steps that you need to know in Performance Prism. The first is you have to identify your stakeholder who is important for you right now, whose care is urgently required, otherwise they will damage your business. So first stage is identification of stakeholder, and also you understand that what is you see, identify all stakeholders, determine relative importance or whose power and interest are high and who must be kept satisfied. So it can be, say for example, for the time being, employees. So important thing is what you miss usually when you study this topic is you have to measure the KPI. Again, every facet is measurable, so you have to have KPI for this. Like if say your stakeholder is currently employee, which is more important right now, otherwise if you don't satisfy them, your business may run into losses. So you will have to identify that since you're not taking care of them, what is happening to them. So is there a high employee turnover ratio? Is there a low employment duration? Is there a high number of strikes? So current scenario, this I am calling as current scenario. You have to identify the current scenario, which is very, very important for us. Current scenario, which is very, very important for us, that you have to first check. Second number, stakeholders contribution, means what they are bringing in your organization, what you need from them. That is only quid pro quo. That is stakeholder contribution. If you are not giving any value addition to me, why will I take care of you? That is the simple idea. So second is stakeholders contribution. Stakeholder contribution is what you need from them. That is our desire, our need, our expectations. So that has to be again made in terms of measurable KPIs, which will be the desired efficiency ratio, or maybe the desired employee turnover ratio. Maybe they need to do some on-time performance, like on-time delivery. They need to bring in profitability. They need to increase their productivity. They need to increase their efficiency. What we expect, our expectation, that is stakeholders contribution. If we will start caring for them, what they will give to us. Third is what strategies we need in order to actually satisfy them. What strategy we should make. With the strategy, it should be like, maybe we are focusing on reducing employee turnover ratio. Maybe you are focusing on increasing efficiency by providing them more resource or training. Maybe you are focusing on productivity, what you want. You want something from them, but it's not necessary that you will be making strategy right now to achieve everything that you want. You might do some selection of the expectations, that I will only work with them on these and these aspects. So you might be working on only 2 aspects which you want to see as a change after the strategy is applied. Okay, third is strategy. Fourth is, now in order to execute the strategy, you need to have some process in place, and that process will be determining your action plans, basically how you will be executing the strategy. So that will be, maybe you will be appointing a new HR manager, you will be writing new policies. So for that you will be having an action plan, execution days. So it can be in terms of number of days which will be taken to execute the strategy or implement the new process, which will ultimately bring the results of the strategy. Lastly, capabilities. Capabilities means what resources you need to bring in order to execute the process. Your action plan cannot be executed unless you have the process, unless you have the resources in place. So it's like, first, who will be the stakeholders you want to satisfy. Identify them as per their relative importance in your organization and situation of the organization. Second, what we will get from them in return. If we say work for them, what we will get from them in return. It may be higher profitability, low cost, it may be high productivity. Next, after this third question is what we need to do, what strategy we are picking up. We may not actually pick up everything that we expect from them. We will pick up maybe a strategy whereby there is no strike, a strategy whereby there is low turnover ratio of employees. We may pick up a strategy to increase the efficiency. So strategy will be basically a long-term goal. And now, in order to accomplish the strategy, you need to have several action plans in place. Those are called as processes, and that will be headed by some manager. There will be some person deputed to do that task, and there will be time allotted to that person, to the manager, in order to execute the task. So that is called as process, and just allotment of time is not enough. In order to execute the process, you need to give him the capabilities, that is the resources. It can be some kind of infrastructure, it can be some kind of capital which the person needs, the manager needs, in order to show you the work that you have allotted to him. So cost per employee, that in that case you need to measure that, what will be your cost per employee, how many men you need to engage in the process along with that manager. So those are the capabilities. So this is performance prism all about. I was just showing you some of the KPIs which you usually miss to learn. When you study, you just study the headings, but what you have to study is study with the KPIs. Study with the KPIs. Okay, now just take a round in your mind and try to recall the 6 steps again. Remember in sequence. Better remember in sequence. Don't remember haphazardly, okay? Then only the flow will come. First is identification, then what we want, third is strategy, fourth is process, and fifth is capabilities. Fifth is capabilities. Sorry, I told initially that it has 6, but it is 5. I'm so sorry for this. Prism has got 5 facets. All right. So try to recall this in your mind. And once this is done, try to also recall what is the difference between balance scorecard and performance prism. Just recall 1 minute. And after this, we will start with performance pyramid. There are some questions coming in the chat. I will answer. Yes, it will be available in YouTube later. Are you going to give this material? No, you can take screenshots. This material is available only on purchase. It is not for the webinar. So you can take the screenshots if required. Sir, I have taken SCMPE 19A batch. If you have specific question for a future examination, then connect with me by writing to care@SJC or by booking a meeting with me. The link has been already shared in the beginning of this video. Okay, so let us start. Let us continue. Performance pyramid. So performance pyramid is another way of analyzing your performance in terms of both financial and non-financial way. Idea of all this performance model is what, traditionally when we say performance evaluation, we say only financial performance, but only focusing on finance makes you one-sided, so you don't grow in long term. In order to have a long-term growth, the objective is you should focus on non-financial parameters also, and therefrom only performance evaluation aspect came. So performance pyramid, performance prism, balance scorecard, these are the models that have been written by some scholars which are actually teaching us that what are the financial and non-financial performances that we should actually follow in our organization. None of them are ignoring finance. Everyone is considering finance, remember, but along with that, what are the other non-financial things? They are also thinking about that. So performance pyramid, friends, it has not yet been asked in the exam. So performance pyramid, you have to remember this pyramid. Our pyramid has got a foundation. Foundation is this one. We call this as foundation. Foundation is external effectiveness and internal efficiency. Internal efficiency means what you need to do internally in your organization, and external effectiveness means you need to understand the perspective of your customers or shareholders, what they are perceiving from whatever you are doing. So there are two pillars, you can say, for internal efficiency and external effectiveness, and they are based on operations. Then for internal efficiency, you need to work upon cycle time reduction and waste. Cycle time and waste, as you can see, cycle time reduction and waste minimization. So if you are able to focus this on this two through your departments or work centers, you will be achieving internal efficiency. But how the pyramid is flowing, that in order to achieve internal efficiency, you need to first work on cycle time and waste. If you do this, what you get is productivity. Productivity means you get more output in less resource. So this is increase in productivity, which is an outcome of reduction in cycle time and waste minimization. Similarly, for external effectiveness, you need to focus on delivery and quality. So if you optimize delivery and quality, customer satisfaction is increased. So you can reconnect it with balance scorecard also, that for achieving customer satisfaction, what two things usually we need to focus on? Critical success factor are quality and delivery. Okay, or you can think it this way also, that customer satisfaction is dependent on these two things. So in internal business you need to do something which increases the quality and delivery time. So delivery time will be increased if you know reduce the cycle time. If cycle time is fast, delivery time will be fast, and if waste is minimized, quality will also be increased. All are interconnected. Okay, so your exam answer has to be in this interconnected way only. When you're writing case study, your exam answer has to be also in this interconnected way. Now if you are able to add flexibility to your customer satisfaction and productivity, that means if say you are able to meet the demand as and when it is coming, if it is a large demand, then that is also you are able to cope up, and if it is a small demand, that is also you are able to cope up, and you are able to sustain with the small demand. If customer is asking for a different kind of specification on your product, you are able to give it. And if say situation requires that some of the material you can manufacture by yourself or outsource some of the productivity flexibility is also there, then what you get is ultimately, because of this three, the market result as well as the financial result. Financial result means increase in profitability, market result means increase in market share, and that is only any corporate vision. Always corporate vision is focused on two things, which is I want to grow my market share and I want to earn a good financial position. But to earn both, you cannot just work on the aspects disclosed by them. You have to work on some internal things, which are waste reduction, which are cycle time minimization, which are delivery optimization, which are quality, and then you add flexibility to that. There comes the pyramid. So pyramid structure is like this. So what they are saying is there are few things that you need to work at the ground level, department and work centers, and then there are some things which you have to work as business operating systems. Means basically this is as per the entire flow of the business. It is not considering any one department. Operating system means it is considering all the departments together as a flow, and then the entire business unit means the company whereby you are working, the company name of company, which is in itself a separate business unit. So that is the business unit's idea, and then maybe there is a group which is sitting at the top of the company, group head office, or you can say investment center, which is having a vision with the business unit that it should grow financially as well as it should have more and more market share. So this is how performance prism has been set up, and of course there will be KPIs for each of this. There will performance pyramid has been set up, and there will be KPIs for each of this. So to understand this KPIs, you have one question only in your ICA MAT related to this, and you should go through that once after this session is over. Just to keep a note that you have to go through one question of ICA MAT for this, whereby they are asking you from several list of KPIs to categorize as in which will go into the which head of the performance pyramid. Okay, so वो question को एक बार आपको देखना है. You need to check that question once. So this is performance pyramid all about. Next, if you have any question, you can please put up in the chat. I will definitely answer, but in order to take full benefit of the session, you should be with me at most. Okay, next is coming next after performance pyramid. I am taking performance measure in not for profit sector. Performance measurement in not for profit sector. Performance measurement in not for profit sector. Yes, here it is. In not for profit sector, there are some key challenges. Vikas Varyani is asking that do we need to draw diagrams? No, there is never any need to draw diagrams. There is no much time also in exam to draw the diagrams. You just need to remember the points. Okay, if you remember the points, it will help you. It will help you to reconstruct the answer, and it is cannot be just if you are remembering the points, you cannot just write direct points also. Remember, you have to always write in context of the question that they are providing. So performance measure in non-for-profit sector. Not-for-profit sector is non-profit sector. Here first is key challenges for measuring performance in not-for-profit organization. So First are why key challenges, because not for profit organization has always a different motive, or which is non-financial motive. So there are some challenges in order to measure their performance. Key challenges is for performance measurement. Why? Because they are not for a financial motive. That is the biggest challenge. They might have multiple objectives. Okay, so first challenge is this: they might have multiple objectives. Then whatever they do in the interest of public at large, without quid pro quo. That means they don't expect anything in return. So whatever benefits that have been derived from their spending may not be quantified usually. So benefits may not be quantified, or sometimes benefits, if quantifiable, may come only in the long run. It may not be short run project. Okay, so benefits may come only in long run. Benefits cannot be quantified. It can have multiple objectives. And more so, what happens in not-for-profit organization is they get funds for a specific purpose, but point is, it may not be that their fund is being utilized for that purpose. They may utilize fund with different objective altogether. So they withdraw, they fund themselves from public or from their members of the organization for specific purpose, that they will be doing this project, that project, for that part of society, this part of society, but spending may not be sometimes directly correlated. That's the biggest challenge they face. Okay, so they get funds in different names, but spending may not be actually directly linked with the fund collected. So these are some issues with them. So you need to remember these key challenges. Remember, next comes, in order to measure their performance, we have value for money framework, which we call as EE framework, 3E framework. So first is economy, second is efficiency, and third is effectiveness. Economy means whenever you are procuring any resource, you should try to procure at least cost. Okay, so I had been one member, board member for some time in not-for-profit organization. So there, you know, there was a time when audit was supposed to be done. So we approached a chartered accountant. He quoted his general fees. Fees was say 10,000 rupees for the audit. So we requested that, see, this is already a charitable organization. We don't earn here, so you should also contribute something for the charity. Well, how will he says, how will I contribute? Just by reducing your fees. You charge us just 1,000 rupees. That is enough. I will give you 1,000 rupees for the effort, but you contribute in different way. So this is our way of getting the resource at minimum cost. But this doesn't mean that you will blindly sign everything. You should also ensure that you are doing your work with full integrity and honesty. So this is economy. Economy means procure things at low cost, but without compromising the quality. Okay. Secondly, efficiency is what? The ratio of input and output. Now, input output will depend on the nature of the work that not-for-profit organization is doing. So if say they're running a school, charitable school, then efficiency will be input output ratio. Input will be teachers, output will be students. So teacher student ratio can be efficiency. Okay, so it depends on what work they are doing. And effectiveness means ultimately the main goal is being achieved or not. You have to again measure that using KPI. So effectiveness in a charitable school can be understood by, say, the attendance in the school, number of students enrolling in the school, or number of students passing with good marks from the school. It will again depend on business to business. If there's a hospital, then effectiveness will be determined by understanding number of readmissions. If number of readmissions are high, that means patient is being readmitted after treatment. That means it is not effective. If number of readmissions are getting low, that means patient has been treated effectively. So it depends on the nature of business, what would be the measure of effectiveness. So you will have to read the question properly and understand what can be the respective KPI in each category. So in past, you know, there has been question in this value for money framework in your previous exams. I have seen some answer papers of the students whereby they're just writing plain theory, vanilla theory. They are not connecting with the case study. So when you are using this KPI, you cannot just write average cost per unit. If you're doing this, that means you're creating blunder. You will have to read the question and understand as per the case study what I can write here which actually suits the case study. It's not necessary that it has to match with your suggested answer. You can always write things from your own, but it has to match with the context. That is most important. So value for money framework. After this we have adapted balanced scorecard approach. Adapted balanced scorecard approach means it is basically a modified version of balanced scorecard for not-for-profit sector. Modified as in here, if you will see that the first perspective is now customer perspective instead of finance, because we are not finance oriented now. We are more oriented towards our beneficiaries. Customer are none but beneficiaries of the projects that we do in not-for-profit organization. Customer means beneficiaries. So whatever we do is for the beneficiaries. So first objective comes here, or first perspective is customer. Second, finance. Now finance in not-for-profit is about arranging the funds, donations. Okay, that is finance aspect. Maintaining the flow of funds, crowdfunding. It can be peer-to-peer funding. Peer-to-peer means one-to-one funding. It can be, so you are approaching one big organization to get the fund. A crowdfunding can be you are approaching a public that you contribute 100 rupees, 50 rupees, something like that. So that is financial perspective. And then again, fund distribution is very important. Internal process is about how will you work with those funds in order to achieve your objective, that is internal efficiency, volunteer growth and development, and quality, everything you have to think. And innovation and learning perspective is about capability of the entire organization to change with the required scenarios of the environment. You can say change with the environment, the ability of your organization to change, as in, say for instance, if there's a pandemic now, so in case of pandemic you cannot go with the same objective of your not-for-profit organization. You might have to change your objective to provide some sanitization, to provide masks, to provide food in such a way that it is protected as well as eatable, something like that. So as per the changing environment you need to adapt the objectives, and that is only we are saying learning perspective. Okay, so this is your basically adapted balanced scorecard. Third, triple bottom line is usually important for exam. So it is a reporting framework. Here it is also called as 3P model. 3P means planet, people and profit. Planet, people and profit. Okay, there has been one question in exam in past whereby they have given several situations which was supposed to be categorized as planet, people and profit. So the names were given, you just need to categorize whether they are thinking on this based on planet or people or profit. So planet is nothing but environment. Environment means you are thinking about these are some areas which actually connects you with the environment, whether we are thinking about air pollution, waste minimization or waste dumping, or water treatment, or land redevelopment, rehabilitation, that is environmental. Social is about the people of the community where you are doing the business, which can be corporate governance. Corporate governance is supposed to come in one common heading. Corporate governance. Safety. Corporate governance means you are not violating any law, you are trying to abide by all the possible regulations. That is corporate governance. That means nobody is coming and pushing you to follow the regulation. You are following all the laws, regulation by yourself. That is corporate governance. Safety of community, you are keeping that in mind while doing any decision making. Ethics, you are following that. That means you are not retrenching any employee for any unknown reason. You are not using people money unnecessarily. The ethics is all about this. Maintaining human relations, health of the society, community, and employee education. If you're thinking about all this, you are social. And economic means you're thinking about your profitability, which can be financial, cash flows and profit ratios. So what is actually triple bottom line? Triple bottom line is a reporting framework. Reporting framework means it is actually used as a reporting framework nowadays for even a profit organization. Although I am teaching this in not for profit organization, but it can be used by profit organization as well. Okay, whereby they are saying that, see, we are not only focusing on finance, we are focusing on both finance and non-finance. We are not focusing only on finance. So they are trying to highlight, along with finance, I am also doing lot of things in my company to protect the environment, to do something for society. So what all we are doing, that is triple bottom line framework, whereby in a table, maybe you will be writing that this has been our financial results, and this we have done for the environment, and this we have done for the society at large. So there can be a question in exam that what is the difference between traditional accounting and triple bottom line. There can be a question in exam that what is the difference between traditional accounting and triple bottom line, and it won't come directly as a right difference between this. You will be given a case study. There is a case study for this already in your ICMAT or case study questions and all. So traditional accounting and triple bottom line, you will have to highlight this difference very beautifully in a case study format. But you need to know the points. So traditional accounting framework is focusing only on finance or shareholders, but triple bottom line is focusing on society, environment and finance. So here other stakeholders are also important. So this way 2 points have been covered. Then traditional is called a single bottom line, it is called as triple bottom line. It is all covered in that 2 point only. Third point can be, there is established framework for traditional, but here triple bottom line does not have established framework. Framework means set of rules that we can follow in order to do that reporting. But although there is now a new initiative called as Global Reporting Initiative for large companies, which SEBI has also implemented for some companies have crossing a threshold in India who are listed in India also. So that is business reporting framework. Okay, so business responsibility report is the name, that the report needs to be prepared as per SEBI guidelines by some of the large companies in India, which is basically guiding the companies as to how to report on the other aspects in a structured manner. So traditionally focus was only on finance, here finance as well as non-finance, and traditionally we were mostly focusing on materiality concept, then that was the base of reporting. Here there is no concept of materiality. That means even if you are doing a small thing for the safety of environment or society, that also you can report. In financial reporting, what we do is we don't report anything that is immaterial, but in triple bottom line framework we can report anything, whatever small also we have done. So this actually creates a goodwill. What is the benefit? What is the benefit of reporting in TBL framework? Benefit of TBL framework, TBL reporting. What is the benefit? Why should we follow TBL reporting? Because this will create a goodwill of the company, which we can say brand image in the eyes of society, that okay, we are also thinking about this. So ultimately this will bring in competitiveness. Others will not be able to stand in front of you. This will also bring us customer loyalty. Okay, it may sometimes create ease of doing business. You may get more employees. Usually you may get easy clearance of licenses from government because you are taking initiatives, ease of doing business. So if you come in limelight and if everyone knows about you, so there will be lot of facilities that will flowing into your organization easily. So these are some of the benefits of TBL reporting. This if you want, you can just take a screenshot, and this way you can also again revise. If you don't have the notes, you can just take a small screenshot here so that you're able to recall it again. Okay, so I've covered performance for not for profit sector also. Next I am coming to building block model. who all are with me watching the video, please type your name or just write I am with you, sir. I am with you. Some people are just coming and going, I can see that. If you are with me watching this video or webinar, you just type with you, sir, so that I understand who all are studying with me. You can just type or raise your hand, your name will automatically come. Okay, Anup is there, Ishita is there, great. Only two, but I can see more names. Shaurya is there, okay. Shahenshah, very nice. Okay, Ronak is also there. Arya Krishna is there. Suman, Nanesh, very nice. I hope my English is understandable. I hope so. I'm just trying. Like initially I used to teach in Bangalore before I started my class in Kolkata, and that was way back in 2012-13. Like from 2007 to 2013 almost, I taught to a great extent in Bangalore. All CA students only there in some of big institutes over there. I was having my classes here only also. Here I was taking limited classes, but there I was taking more classes. In 2012 I left everything and started full-fledged here, but I continued with my commitment over there in 2013 till 2013. So there I used to teach everything in English, but now here after coming back to Kolkata, did not got much chance. Okay, great. Bhumika is there, Jai Hind is there, Kirti Kaushik is there. Okay, very much understandable, thank you. Okay, great. So I am now switching to building block. See, building block, I feel there can be a question in the upcoming exam only. It is the most awaited model because in our performance evaluation models there are multiple questions on building block model, but it has not yet been tested in exam as yet. So let me come to building block model, BUI. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so those who don't have this notes, you can just take a screenshot of this page. This is a small page to understand the entire model. Building block model was actually written by Fitzgerald and Moon. Name is not that important. What's there in the name? As Shakespeare said once, building block model is for performance appraisal in service industries. Okay, building block model is for performance appraisal in service industries. So whenever there is any performance evaluation question related to service sector, maybe a restaurant, maybe a kind of say service of giving houses on rent, rental service, there can be transport service, there can be travel agency. So you know several examples of service industries. So to measure their performance specifically, there is a model called as building block model. So there are three blocks here, we call as three blocks are there. First block is called as standard block, second is reward block, third is dimension block. As you can see, there are three blocks: standard, reward, dimension. So what does standard block says? Standard block says that you should set your desired performance first. What you want, what you expect, desired performance. We usually say that, oh, my team is not performing, oh, I'm not getting the results that I'm looking for. But that's not the way to think. The idea is you have to always first set your benchmarks, set your targets. And whenever you're setting your targets, setting your standards, there has to be some ground rules for that, and there are 3 ground rules as you can see in the standard block. First is equity. Equity means it has to be equally challenging for all the departments in your organization. The second is ownership. Ownership means it cannot be imposed. It has to be owned by each of your managers or employees in the organization. Owned means how they will own your expectation. It should not be just your expectation, it should be their expectation as well. So when they will own that expectation that you are having, when you will involve them in the decision making, seek their participation, don't everything just impose on them. If you will only impose on them, they'll not own the expectation that you are having. So owned. Third is achievable. Yeah, that means always set something realistic desires, else there will not be desired results. So first is the standard block, and there are 3 ground rules to set the standard. It should be equity, means equally challenging, not too hard for one department and too easy for other. Secondly, it should be owned, which can be possible by participation. It should not be imposed. Third, it should be achievable. Second is the reward block. In case of reward, first is reward should be clearly communicated, like what reward they will get if they achieve the desired performance. Reward should be motivating as in they should have some motivation to achieve it, and ultimately they will be doing it when they will get something extra. Your employees would be doing it when they'll get something extra. That pursuit of achieving the reward should be aligned with the company's main business goal, so that there is goal congruency always. If they are getting reward for something for which you are not getting anything, if they are getting reward for something for which you are not, as a company owner, not getting anything, then that reward is waste. You should only reward for those things which ultimately will benefit your company. Okay, so that is, we are talking about motivation. And last is controllability. That means if by any chance the employee is not able to achieve the desired result because of the situations beyond the control of the employee, then also you should reward. So controllability means you should not penalize for uncontrollable factors. Then in case of dimension block, there are 2 aspects. There is 4 determinants. There are 4 determinants and then 2 types of results. There are 4 determinants and then 2 types of results. 4 determinants, 2 results. 4 determinants are what? 4 determinants are what? 4 determinants are what? This you can say again, CSF. One is quality, then there is flexibility, then innovation, and lastly there is resource utilization. ठीक है, इसको याद रखने के लिए, to remember this, you can remember it like this. Q फिर, it's actually Hindi. Q फिर, it's actually Hindi, but if you can understand this, it will help you to remember this for some time. Q फिर, Q is quality, flexibility, innovation and resource utilization. And again, since these are CSFs, so you need to have KPIs for each. So for quality, what can be the ways to think about this KPIs? So it can be your reliability, responsiveness, reliability of the product, that product will not fail for some time. So number of defects, fixed, it's quality. If it is quality, you can write number of defects. Flexibility is in terms of volume, speed. Speed means speed to make a new product. Specification means your ability to cater to new specification as given by your customers. How much time you need to cater to the changes. Innovation is innovating new process or new product. Resource utilization is about efficiency or full capacity utilization. So that's all. Some are points. These are some points which will help you to determine KPI. These are not exactly the KPIs. These are some things that will help you to understand what can be the KPIs related to this. KPIs need to be identified based on the given scenario in the question. Okay, so quality can be, reliability means defects. Responsiveness can be maybe number of complaints. That is responsiveness. Responsiveness means you are talking with your customers or quality can be also number of complaints or number of rejections, something like that. Flexibility and all is all there. Innovation, resource utilization, and results. In results you have two results, one is financial, another is competitive result. In case of financial, we have all those financial ratios which you remember a lot more than me. And in case of competitive performance, what we compare is how much we are able to retain customers as much as our competitors, what is our market shares, what is our sales growth. Sales growth is basically the sales volume, and market share is the percentage of sales volume divided by industry size. Market share is your sales volume as a percentage of industry size, and sales growth is just the sales volume. Okay, so these are your results. These are your results aspect: financial performance and competitive performance. Okay, so building block model is over. So it is specifically for service industry, and there are 3 blocks. Just now close your eyes and try to recall whether you remember the points or not. After all this listening, your job is just to go directly to the case study and see how they have written answers using this. एक बार just you need to see how they have written answers using this. One plotting, you need to see how they have weaved this concept into the case study, and the job is done. And rest in exam, you will need to be prepared that there can be something new, and the way of weaving this concept in the case study needs to be seen, and your case study will be new. You know the model, so you need to weave it again there. Okay, so that's how the preparation will be done. So building block model is also done. I'm coming to the next topic. Budgetary control. Okay, let me start with budgetary control. I will only pick up the important one. There is one student, Sameer Lakhwani, foundation strategy. He is asking, beta, this is final class going on, you are coming in final class, your seniors will do ragging, please leave, we will talk about foundation sometime later. Okay, this is not the class for foundation. Today we are with final students. All these bhaiyas and all will do your ragging, immediately leave. Okay, we will talk, Sameer, sometime later about the strategy of foundation. Chalo, okay. So budgetary control, there are some basic notes here which I think that you may go with yourself, or you can always write in by your general common sense. Fixed budget, flexible budget, these are not the topic of your examination. These are just for basic understanding of the subject. So what are traditional, zero based, performance budgeting? These are all basic. Your actual chapter starts from here, budgetary control. So budgetary control is about having your established performance. Yeah, that means you need to have standard performance, then actual performance. Third is deviation from that, and fourth is monitoring the deviation in order to continuously improve. So these are the 4 steps for budgetary control. And when we do comparison, there are 2 ways of comparison, or you can say there are 2 ways of control. One we call as feedback control, another we call as feed forward. So what happens in feedback is we are comparing our standard and actual at the end. What we are doing here is we are comparing our standard and actual at the end. Since we are comparing at the end, we call this feedback as a reactive approach. What we call as reactive approach. It is called as reactive approach. Why reactive? It is called reactive because we are comparing at the end. So when we will rectify, of course, in the next iteration. So since you rectify in the next iteration, what happens sometimes in case of feedback situation? Say your factory is continuously running, and here at the end of certain production, you took the standard versus actual and you took feedback from the results. Okay, whatever actual results you achieved, you took the feedback. Okay, so now you went and started doing analysis of what were the reasons of deviations. Now when you came back, you thought that you did the analysis, you thought that there are some errors in the system that you should rectify. So you did some planning for implementation of a new step, or planning was needed for actually for something to rectify this deviation forever. Okay, so you were actually now ready to implement that, but what happened is when you came, it was of course after certain time, so you thought that let me again check the result now when I have come with my new plan. So here when you are taking the feedback, there is no error as such. That error is not coming. It happens no sometimes. Sometimes it happens. How it happens usually? A very interesting example is when we go to doctor, keeping in mind that I am having some pain in chest, but when doctor asks where is the pain, we say, oh my god, there is no pain now, I don't know how. So sometimes it happens in case of mobile phone or our laptop also, that we are facing certain problem, but when engineer comes, there is no problem as such. Correct? So that happens in feedback. Many times there is so much time in the process of error detection, error analysis, error correction, that when you come back and start implementing the results of your analysis, then actually the system has got some auto correction and you now feel that this is not required. Okay, so this is the limitation of feedback. Second is feed forward. Feed forward is what? Feed forward is before, it's not at the end. Like feed forward will be done here, not at this stage. Feed forward will start from the beginning. Here feed forward will start. So what is it about? It is about, of course, having your standard versus you will forecast what can be the actual versus forecasted actual. Standard versus forecasted actual. Remember, standard versus forecasted actual. What you have to see is standard versus forecasted actual, and you will find out the deviation here, and before starting your process you will take measures. Okay, planning and measures will be taken right here so that deviation does not come. Okay, so you will be very careful throughout the process such that when you will take feedback at the end, there should not be any deviation. That's the objective of feed forward. In case of feed forward, the idea is you must be proactive throughout the process so that there is no necessity of feedback. But there cannot be any situation like that you are 100% perfect with your feed forward, because you are doing something based on forecasted actual. So forecasts never actually convert as actual. Forecast means there are certain uncertain elements there. So if uncertainty is there, you cannot have everything exactly replicated as actual here. Correct? So feed forward has got only one limitation, that it is based on forecasted actual and it is having a lot of uncertainties. So there is no actual study that studies the future. Though some studies are there, some probability based studies are there, but there is no foolproof certain study that studies the future with certainty. So future is always going to have element of uncertainty, and that's how feed forward sometimes may also fail. So these are all written over here, you can read it, and these are all from your institute mat only, just presented in a summarized way. And then there are 4 types of feedback. Primary, which means that can be handled at lower level. Secondary means that needs to be reported at higher level. Okay, third is positive, which is a good feedback, so you need to reinforce it, means ensure that it happens again and again. And then negative means you need to correct it because that's not a favorable feedback. There are some guidelines to implement feedback. There can be straight case study questions related to implementation of feedback and feed forward. So guidelines, this is very theoretical. I cannot help you in any way. You got to remember this. Okay, disclose both accomplishment and responsibility, means what has been done and what was supposed to be done. Okay, that is basically the actual and the standard. Okay, then it should be extracted promptly. So if you are delaying in extracting the feedback, the resultive corrective action will be delayed. It should also disclose, when you are making a feedback report, it should also disclose the trends in relationship, because you need not act upon each and every feedback. Remember, this is a golden statement that I am sharing with you. You need not act on each and every feedback. You need to only act on repetitive feedbacks. Okay, each and every feedback, if you start working upon, you will be ending up investing a lot of time and lot of cost as well. So it should also disclose the variation. It should be in a standardized format. That means every time the format of feedback report should be same. Similarly, feed forward control implementation also has some guidelines that you need to have thorough planning. You need to carefully select input variables which you are using for feed forward. It has to be dynamic, means you cannot just have one feed forward at the beginning and just apply everything throughout. You need to be very dynamic throughout. Feed forward works throughout the process. There should be a model control system, means there should be some control system, like there are some studies which we use actually, like I said, probability study. There is control charts in case of statistics, which helps us to understand what is going on real time basis. So you need to use certain dedicated models for predicting future. And then data on input variables should be collected regularly and assessed. That means what? You should be always collecting data throughout and assess what is going on over here. And lastly, it requires action. If you just compare, it's not enough. You need to take action again proactively, so that there is limited feedback at the end. Okay, so this you need to again go through once and twice. It may not be that you are able to use exact words for these in exam, but you should be justifiably writing the answer. Okay, not maybe all the points, but some points must be there in your answer. Okay, next is behavioral aspects of budgetary control. Here I will just summarize it in short. Okay, behavioral aspect is, budget should not be very tough, because if it is very tough, your employees or managers won't feel motivated to achieve it. So they will find it tough, unrealistic, so they will neglect it. Or if you will again make it other way, that you are involving them to participate in preparation of budget and you are pushing them for hard, then what they will do is, they will try to introduce budgetary slack. Slack is a concept that means they will add certain extra element here. They will add certain extra element over here, which is actually not required. Why they will add that element? Because if they will think that if we are unable to achieve, we will have this slack, so that our boss doesn't penalize us. For example, if say any work has to be done within 5 days, the managers who are participating with you in preparation of budget, they will always say 7 days. 2 days slack they will keep with themselves. So if any uncontrollable situation rises, they should not be penalized. If because of any reason they are unable to work in the full capacity or full efficiency, then what? Then boss will penalize. That boss will say that you only said, okay, you only said that this will be done in 5 days. So later on we should have our words, no? So we will keep a buffer for ourselves, right? Shore is perfectly indicating here a buffer for themselves. It's clear, correct, 100% correct that you have said. It's a clear, correct answer. A buffer for themselves they will keep. If you will keep the budget too hard, then only there is a tendency that employees will introduce, or managers who are being involved in preparation of budget, they will introduce slack. So budget should not be very easy, because they will not feel motivated to do it because it is very easy. So budget should always be at a moderate level. And Behavioral aspect means what, how employees behave when they see your process of budgetary control. So first of all, they may find too tough. Second, they may find it too easy. So how to overcome this? You should keep it at moderate level. Then employees do not communicate well within themselves or with the managers to discuss the problems they are facing with execution of budget. So this is a behavioral issue related to budgetary control system. You have a good system, but since employee communication is not there between themselves as well as with the managers, so the success of budgetary control system can be questionable. Okay, so there can be minimum communication, and sometimes they consider this all budget as a fault finding program. They consider that by this way our company head is only fixing a target for us and then pushing us to do that, and they don't listen to us. So they understand that this is a fault finding program, so they are not motivated to actually act for it. So they do not consider budget as their own. They feel that it is a short term thing. And sometimes what happens, our budgets, if they are not properly aligned with our long term goals, our employees, they may aggressively be pursuing the budget only. That is also a problem. If they start aggressively pursuing the budget, then that is also dangerous, because it will make an organization short term. It will not help an organization in long term. So there has to be carefully setting up of the budget. So how to overcome the consequence of budgetary control? You have to set targets. Okay, you have to ignore the uncontrollable factors while doing the performance evaluation. Communication, long term, there should be evaluation in the regular time interval. Educate the company for the usefulness of the control procedure. Moderate level of difficulty, employee participation, and don't use too much of financial information always. Accounting information means financial information. You can take a snapshot of this. It will help you to revise this again, because I know that this notes is very critical here. If say any case study is coming related to behavioral aspects of budgetary control, if you have these points in mind, you can always connect it with your case study and write. So just take one screenshot here, just take one screenshot here, and take another screenshot here. Yes. Okay, I hope you all are finding your time worth giving here. I just hope you are finding your time worth giving here. Our time is effectively being utilized here. I just hope. Okay, so next I will want you to understand what is the effect of participation in budget setting process. Why? Because there have been some case studies related to participatory budgets. Okay, there are two types of budget usually: participatory budgets or imposed budgets. So imposed budget are top down approach, participative budgets are bottom up approach. Imposed are centralized and participative are for decentralized organization. So what happens is, participative budget is more towards employee empowerment. It is trying to make our employee involved in our business process or decision making process, so that they own the budgets, so that they own the expectations, so that they feel that budget is for their good as well as the company's good. It's not just that it is only for the company. Okay, so what happens in top down approach, imposed style budget? In imposed style budget, there will be board of directors, okay, or the CEOs, something like that. Okay, they prepare the budget for the managers, and managers got to follow that. So this is how managers can also have their subordinates below him. So this is the flow in their imposed style budget. And second, in case of participative budget, what happens is, board of director will also be there. It's not that everyone will come in the one platform. So board of directors will be still at the same place, managers will be also there, subordinates will be there. So what happens in participative budget? The board first calls the manager, who in turn calls his subordinates and asks to submit a plan. So from here there is a plan which is flowing from managers to board of directors. Okay, and then there is a review of this plan. Review is there, and that reviewed plan is passed on to the manager after review, or after review there can be some suggestions. So after review some suggestions can be added and passed on to the managers to be followed. And for any understanding, board may call upon the people who have submitted the plans, or maybe some responsible persons whom the board feels that they need to discuss with them. Okay, so imposed style budget is just from here to here. Okay, there is no reverse flow, but in participative budget there is a reverse flow. This is step 1. Okay, and then there is step 2. This is step 2. This is step 2. Okay, so first is step 1, second is step 2. This is like participative budget. So there are some advantages and disadvantages. This is very, very important. So top down approach has got an advantage that it is quick and less time consuming, but it has got a disadvantage that the employee morale is low and motivation is low, because employee doesn't feel connected over here. He thinks that they have been imposed to do something. So less management commitment is there. So this is a disadvantage. There is no scope of introducing slack because you have decided everything. So this is an advantage. Budget can be inaccurate or non-acceptable by some of your subordinates or managers. If you have multiple managers in your organization, they may feel that you have not prepared a budget as per the required scenario applicable for them, which is not applicable for other managers. The disadvantage and advantage of participation budget can be, it can be sometimes delayed and time consuming. So this is a disadvantage. High employee morale because they are involved. Increased management commitment because of course they are involved, everything with the employees. Tendency to introduce budgetary slack, that is a disadvantage. And then realistic budget, which is acceptable to everyone because they have only given the estimates, so we are just reviewing it and accepting it. So budget seems more realistic, so that is an advantage. And I think that you should also take screenshot of this, because this disadvantage in my eyes is very important. In past also they have asked a question on this. So whenever any question is asked in participative budget, you may discuss advantage, disadvantage of imposed budget as well there if required. If say question is critically evaluate, for example, if there is something called as critically evaluate, then you have to talk about advantage, disadvantage and its reverse thing also. That is, if imposed style budget is coming, then you have to talk about something about that also. Okay, so this is participation budget. Not always that participative budget is useful in all the organization. So circumstances when top down budget is only best for an organization, it is when personality characteristics of your employees are such that it is not that if they are involved in preparation of budget they will actually start showing improvement. It happens in some organization that people are not so smart or not so organization oriented that if you start involving them they will consider everything as their own. It is not that. So personality characteristics of the participation may limit the benefits of the participation. So it depends on the personality characteristics of the employees actually. So if they are not so smart, if they are not so manager oriented or future oriented, organization oriented, it will not help by their participation. Second, if you are operating in a stable environment, okay, stable environment is there, highly programmable, means sab kuch, everything is automatic, so you in that case also you don't need any participation. When participation by itself is not adequate in ensuring commitment to standards and managers can significantly influence the results. That means if say any manager is involved in the participation of budget or is involved in the participative budget, then if they don't commit to the standards, what is the benefit of the participation? When participation by itself is not adequate in ensuring commitment to standards, if they don't value the standards, What is the benefit of participation? We just don't want to create gossip, so we want that they should follow the standards that are set by us. If they start arguing in the standards that we have set in alignment of our organization goal, then that participation is not useful. Okay, so there is a question in your case study that about a school. A school is discussing about whether the school's teachers or senior staff members should be involved in preparation of school budget. So there is some disadvantage written in that case study, that senior teachers or senior staff members may be good in their job, but they may not have the management skills to understand the budgetary process or the desired standards, how it will help the organization in long run. So they may be good in their jobs, but they may not actually understand the whole management process. So there can be sometimes drawback of this participation in some ways. Next, where a firm has large number of homogeneous units operating in a stable environment. So if you have same type of departments, units means departments which are working in same working conditions, so you may not need any kind of participation. So when do we need participation? It is usually when, say, you are in a corporate office and your managers are in different cities or different geographical areas, then you may not have information about what is happening in their geographical area, and the geographical scenario or the say environment of business may be different with the different managers in different geographical locations. So in that case you need participation, because they will come and explain you what they need and what is the expectation of the market in their geographical location. So when is participation fruitful? When there is continuous change in the way of working, in the consumer taste and preference, in the say the way resources have been procured in the past and now that is totally different, the way the employees are thinking now. So if there is continuous dynamism over there, then you need participation of your managers in setting a budget. If you know that everything is stable and constant, then what you can bring in participation? Nothing. Okay, so participation only helps when there is dynamism. So there are three distinct styles of using budget. One is budget constraint style, where we push that you have to achieve the target. Profit conscious style, we don't push on our budgets, we just push on the net profit that we need from the departments. Non-accounting style is whereby we are not focusing on financial information, we are more focusing on non-financial information from the departments. Okay, so this rough idea is enough, and all these are for general information for understanding of the concept better. So you can just have a glance over it and you can just focus on these three names and this basic idea about the three names. Okay, next is your limitation of traditional budgeting. Whatever we had been studying until now was all traditional budgeting. Traditional budgeting has got some limitation that here it is not very dynamic, it is not very participative, it does not allow too much of communication. It can say it from the viewpoint of impose style budget also. It does not allow too much of communication, it does not allow you to change as per the environment. It measures performance on a periodic basis, standards are not revised frequently. Okay, so sometimes since management participation is not allowed here, you can say lower level people are not allowed here in the process of setting up the budget. What happens is there are certain unsupported assumptions and guesswork that okay, this person, this can do this thing easily, so something like this happens here. Okay, so it doesn't allow knowledge sharing between the departments also. It sometimes make people feel undervalued, because if they are not able to achieve the targets, they will be pressured. Okay, so these are some of the limitation. It is time consuming as well as costly. It avoids flexibility, barrier to change, not long term focused. Basically it is short term focused. It does not focus on value creation, rather than it is just focusing on money saving. It focuses on cost reduction than on value creation. and updated too infrequently. So in order to remove these limitations, we came up with a new budgeting system altogether called as beyond budgeting, which is basically a term given for going beyond the traditional budgeting. The main idea is to have a more dynamic or adaptive budgetary process and a decentralized process whereby all the limitations of traditional budgeting should be removed. So here the idea is abandon traditional budgeting, decentralized decision making. You should give responsibility to your managers, maximize value and allow them to change as per the scenario demands. So what you can just focus on this table is very important in my idea, which helps us to understand the core difference between traditional and beyond budgeting. Okay, so beyond budgeting will focus on long term, will focus on financial as well as non-financial. Beyond budgeting will allow participation of employees. Beyond budgeting will be updated frequently as per the dynamism of the environment. Beyond budgeting will be dynamic. It will allow communication between the departments. Whatever limitation you have written here, you just reverse it. It becomes all features of beyond budgeting. But you know, dirty mind of question paper setter is what? How they set up the question. Write characteristics of beyond budgeting, write advantages of beyond budgeting, write guiding principles of beyond budgeting. So that way they may set question. In past we have seen that one question was asked that way. So that is very dangerous if they ask. So characteristics of beyond budgeting. Now people usually what they do is they write everything that they know. So that's the biggest problem with the theory stuffs, that I cannot even help. You have to mug up as per the heading. So characteristics is what? There can be rolling budgets which may incorporate KPI. Now what are rolling budgets? I'll just explain in quick sentence. Usually what we have is we have a budget for a specific period. Usually what we have is a budget for a specific period. So this is 1 year budget. So in case we have 1 year budget, the performance evaluation will be done at the end of the budget period, that is at the end of the year. So that is quite long. That means after 1 year only performance evaluation is done, whether we are able to perform properly or not. Then next year only things would be rectified. So rolling budget is first of all saying that you need to have several small periods within this 1 year period, and each period you will evaluate the performance. And at any point of time, say this is quarter 1, after quarter 1 the period is over. So you cannot say that now only 3 quarters will be evaluated. It will be again rolled forward to include next quarter of the next year. So again there is a period of 1 year for the evaluation of yearly performance, and of course quarterly performance will be also reviewed. So rolling budgets are saying that as soon as a small interval has elapsed, you will also include a new interval from the next period, so that the budget period always remains same, and again evaluation will be done in a small interval rolled over continuously. So this way we get opportunity for whatever error we have done here to rectify in quarter 2, as well as to incorporate this is in quarter 5, or we can say quarter 1 of next year. So here also we can incorporate the mistakes that we have done, means rectification steps that we have done, that we have found in quarter 1 evaluation. Okay, so this way quarter 1 we will form the basis of your dynamic evaluation, and based on the performance of this new period will be added with the updated things, with the implemented new measures. Okay, so they are saying that rolling budget may also incorporate KPIs. KPIs are for non-financial aspects. So it's not necessary that you need to only focus on financial aspect. So sometimes benchmarking is also incorporated in budgets. What are benchmarking? Benchmarking is a separate chapter which I have not intentionally gone with you. Benchmarking is basically comparing your performance with the best of the company in the industry. Performing company, if you are doing some activity and you want to know whether you are performing properly or not, or performing in a better way or not, So you can set your own standard and compare, that is good, but where from the standard will come? You can raise your standard year by year, you can check your standards from past, but the idea is you should always do better in comparison with your competitors. So when you are setting a benchmark or you can say standard using your competitors activity, it is called as a benchmark. Benchmark is what others are able to do. Standard sometimes can come internally, it can be implicit, it may not be explicit. Standards sometimes come from your past performance, you are just raising the bar from your past performance. But if you are making a standard based on the competitive performance, then that standard becomes a benchmark. So you can use benchmark also in your budgets to compare it with actual. Focus is managers is to improve future results rather than just focusing on achieving the budgets. Allow operational managers to react to the environment, that means it is more dynamic, it is allowing managers to react to the environment. It is also having a culture of innovation because they are allowed to think creatively for betterment of the organization, and it also helps in more timely allocation of resources as and when needed. It helps in timely allocation of resources as and when needed because we are very adaptive. Whenever anything is required, we agree to that at top level. But in traditional budgeting, we never used to agree. We used to say, no, whatever has been decided in the budget, that only we will follow. Alright. So when we say more timely allocation of resources, what does it mean? When we say more timely allocation of resources, what does it mean? That we are responsive to the need of the managers. So that is all done in beyond budgeting, and where it is suitable where you have rapid change going on in the business environment. That means business environment is not static, it is continuously changing. Where there is continuous improvement going on using TQM or any other things, and when the industry is undergoing radical change, like some way of doing business is completely changing, so budgets may be hard to achieve in such circumstances, but still beyond budgeting can be followed as per the scenario which is coming up. So if I will say this pandemic is affecting almost all the business drastically, the way they were doing business, so if companies still follow the traditional budgeting, they may not be able to achieve their goals because current pandemic requires a lot of adaptation in the new way of working and adopt a new way of working. So their scenario is beyond budgeting suitability. Okay, so if there is a rapid change in the business environment, that whatever you are doing in the business, it is changing because of pandemic, or it is because of government policy changes, or because of certain climatic changes, whatever. Okay, it is maybe because of your internal policies related to TQM, or it may be because of any kind of radical change that is affecting the entire industry. Okay, so if that is happening, then of course you should do beyond budgeting. So I explained you everything. Now you have to remember the most important criteria is you have to remember certain key points, else you will make very generalized answer in exam that will not help you to fetch the marks. In order to fetch the marks, you need to remember the stuffs as well. Okay, so with this I have finished the beyond budgeting part. Very important is participation and non-participation, or rather participative and imposed style budgets. Very important. Its advantages and disadvantage you need to remember, and where only top down budget is preferred, that means in what circumstance participative budget is preferred, and then beyond budgeting characteristics, advantages, and guiding principles, all these you have to remember. So give some more attention to the topic. These all are also there in your institute material. If you don't have these notes, you can just pause and take a screenshot as well, so that you are able to revise from these notes if you want. But you have to check all these once again, maybe just for 5 minutes. Got it? So with this I have done budgetary control also with you. Now I am starting with Divisional transfer pricing. I will only discuss its theoretical aspect, divisional transfer pricing. Let's come to divisional transfer pricing. How much will be the theoretical and practical portion in exam? 50-50 you can say, 50-50. Theory and practical would be 50-50. So let's continue divisional transfer pricing. So divisional transfer pricing is about, you know what? So there will be a group of company, and that group of company is having several companies, company A, company B. We call these companies as profit centers. Okay, these are all profit centers. When these are profit centers, we call that the organization is a decentralized organization. Okay, we call this as decentralized or divisionalized, divisional system or decentralized system. Here each and every company is supposed to earn profit for the group. So the head of the company here, the head CEO of the company, has got a remuneration in the form of share of profit also. So the more the profit he will earn for the group, the more will be his share of remuneration also. But there can be a scenario whereby the group is there and then there are only departments. There are no separate companies. Department 1, Department 2, Department 3. So in that case, this group is only the profit center or the investment center. Here group is only called as investment center, but in this case profit center and investment center is all the group only. And here this is centralized organization and the departments are just the functional departments. They are supposed to follow the instruction given by the group or profit centers or investment centers. So responsibility of earning profit is in the sole domain of the group, not in the domain of the departmental managers. There can be managers here. Their remuneration will not be linked to the profit. It will be pure salary based remuneration. Okay. So this is the basic idea. Now we got to study what are the advantages and disadvantages of centralized and decentralized system. Okay. So centralized system has got certain advantages, that it gives you better control over everything. It is having low cost of execution, because whatever be the need of the department 1, 2, 3, it is all known at the group level. So group can enjoy the benefit of scale. Okay, say department 1 needs stationery, department 2 needs stationery, department 3 needs stationery. So the requirement can be consolidated and all stationery can be ordered at once. So there is low cost by consolidating common activities. If all three need software, so one software can be made to suffice the need of all three. So that is the best aspect of centralized organization. And there is never any diversion, because your managers are not thinking actually for the organization. So how will they divert? So disadvantage is what? Disadvantage is everything will be regulated and done by top management. So top management needs to be involved always in the business. Next disadvantage is what? Divisional managers restrained from group policies. Divisional managers restraints from group policies. Divisional managers restrained from group policies means they don't understand what group wants to do, so they try to step away from that. Delayed decisions. Why delayed decisions? Because if say department 1 has got several another departments within its umbrella, and in some say very lower department there is a need for something, so that needs to be approved by HO. And if say in some cases a head office is in different city, then decision is very delayed. You know what, we are now engaged with Amul for providing training to them in our advanced MS Excel courses, PowerPoint, okay, Google Sheets. We teach that also to our students, if you know. So we are tied up with Amul. So whenever any training program is proposed in their division, for specific division, you know, it is a centralized organization. It is a centralized organization. Many company does what, you know, they don't keep everything centralized and they don't do everything decentralized. They divide. Some things will be decentralized, some things will be centralized. That is the ideal scenario to operate in reality. You cannot have 100% decentralization, you cannot have 100% centralization. Some decision making will be centralized, some decision making will be decentralized. So how they got approval, it took around 2 months to get an approval from their head office in Gujarat. Their office is there in Kolkata also. So from for a small approval, they need to take approval from Gujarat whether the training has to be done or not, and that took 2 months. That took 2 months. Imagine, that is, I am saying, delayed decision, because for the purpose of training they have this centralized process of approval, but it's not that entire organization is centralized. So another problem is we never know the worth of these departments in centralized organization, how much they are contributing to the profit. So we don't know departments are contributing to the profit or not. So divisional profitability cannot be ascertained. Now what is the advantages and disadvantages of decentralized system? You think by yourself now. The advantage of decentralized system is there is no involvement of top management. Okay, then divisional managers accept the group policies easily, decisions are quick. Okay, but divisional profitability can also be ascertained. Divisional managers feel very motivated when they work in decentralized organization. Okay, and it acts as a good training ground also for junior and middle management, that they are to do some certain things by themselves. Reduce head office bureaucracy. Reduce head office bureaucracy means what? Of course, sometimes head office becomes so powerful in many organizations that head office staff becomes like babus, like IAS officers. Okay, in government, why there is bureaucracy? Bureaucracy means whatever head office says, it has to be agreed. So there is bureaucracy because government organizations are centralized. Government is not decentralized. They can't make their policies and decisions themselves. They need to follow the instruction by the central government, or say if certain matters related to state government, then there is a centralized body who make decisions for different departments. So there is a bureaucracy of babus, of head office people. Whatever they say, their attitude is only different. So in decentralized system, bureaucracy is reduced. In decentralized, it is a good training ground for the juniors to train themselves. You can ascertain the profitability. Your top management is not involved in affairs, so they can focus on more long-term goals or strategic objectives. Then divisional managers have autonomy. Autonomy means they can take decisions for themselves. Then there is fast decision making, so sometimes decision making quality is also better, and it is motivational, more acceptable. Drawback is what? Now this advantage will become the disadvantage. Less control, because divisions are in their own world. Divisions are making their own strategy which may not be aligned with the corporate strategy. There can be high cost because there is no consolidation of common activities. Everyone is working independent. Okay, so these are disadvantage. And another most important is, sometimes in case of decentralization, these managers start envy करने लगते हैं. They start feeling jealous of themselves, that this division is performing better than me, so I am not able to perform. Group is partial towards them, head office is giving more support to them. So they start उलझन में डाल लेते हैं अपने आप को. Means they start sometimes tying up their mind with unnecessary thoughts and human behaviors and all what we say, and as a result their performance goes down. And sometimes in order to come in limelight, they may do certain manipulation. Say group has said that whoever gives me higher ROI, I will reward them more, for instance. So if that is the case, then what happens? Higher ROI लाने के लिए they do anything, any kind of manipulation. You also know some sort of manipulation. You're a chartered accountant almost, so you know how financial statements can be manipulated. Okay, in order to show low investments, what they will do, in order to show low investments, if say my profit is not growing, if I can keep my investment amount lower, okay, what I can do is I will try to do something which will keep my investment lower if my profit is not growing, so my ROI will be higher, so that I can be rewarded. So in order to have low investment amount, I will manipulate how? I will not replace the machineries, let the old machineries be continued. I will continue with the old machinery. Okay, so that way what will happen? My book value will be continued. New machinery if I bring, what will happen? I will take money from the investment center, but I will not invest it in my if I have to bring my new machinery, what will happen is I will take money from the investment center and my old asset will go back and new asset will come, and if new asset is coming, my investment amount will seem bigger. So I'll not ask for money from investment center. I will not replace my machinery. I'll continue my business with old machinery which is producing poor quality, which will actually dissatisfy my customers, but I'm not bothered. I am thinking that as a manager I will leave the company after 1 year. How does it matter? I'll join some other company to grow myself. Let the company go wherever it wants to go. I won't bother. I will not do any new investment. I will only keep old machines running, so that my investment amount seems lower. My profit, even if it is not growing, my ROI will be higher. I will be rewarded more on ROI. Okay, so this is some kind of behavioral issue which comes into decentralized organization, which we call as suboptimal decision making or dysfunctional behavior, where divisions make their decisions in their own best interest, which may not be good from the company's viewpoint. So there is a solution to this. Solution is your company should only measure the performance of their divisions in a manner that it aligns with the goal of the company. You can, इसलिए we cannot say that you have to only give me ROI. If I am a group head, I cannot say my divisional managers that you will have to give me a good ROI. That's it. ROI is a financial aspect. So if I am only asking for a good ROI, better ROI, what will happen? I will not be able to satisfy my customers indirectly, because our manager, if they start only focusing on ROI, good ROI, so what is happening in their geographical location, I may not be looking every day. So they will try to do some manipulation. Somehow they will try to get more profit by not incurring justified production costs to maintain quality of the product. They may fire the employees unnecessarily to increase their profitability. If we are firing employees, what will happen? These employees will not come back to the company. They will create a bad reputation for the company. So they will do any sort of thing to improve the profitability. Alright. So we want to understand these managers that it's not just about ROI, it's about other non-financial aspects. So divisional transfer pricing is also connected with whatever performance evaluation models that we have learnt. This all performance evaluation model just now that we understood were focused on one basic idea, that you should not just focus on the finance, you should also focus on non-finance, which brings profitability in the long run. Finance is a short-term aspect, but non-finance is a long-term aspect which brings you profitability in the long run. So what ways you can think in non-finance parameter? There needs model. There is a case to understand model now. So models help us to understand all financial and non-financial in a structured way. So even in case of divisional transfer pricing questions, I am just sharing with you there can be mixing of any kind of your performance evaluation models to actually formulate a performance measurement system which measures both financial and non-financial aspect of a divisional performance. Got it? So anyways, these are the disadvantages that I discussed, and these are some common knowledge based discussion. I am next coming to divisional performance measures ROI. So ROI, how do you calculate ROI? It is controllable profit divided by investments. How do you calculate ROI? It is controllable profit divided by investments. Here it is controllable profit. Remember, that means any kind of expense for which divisional manager is not responsible, that expense should not be charged to the profit calculation. For example, HO expenses should not be charged. Example, HO expenses should not be charged. Okay. So if you are not charging HO expenses, then the profit is called as controllable profit, okay, divided by investment. Now this is the calculation of ROI. Advantage is easy to calculate, easy to comprehend. Comprehend means easy to understand. Its information is directly coming from accounting documents, so it is easily fetchable. Okay, it measures the performance of the full division. It gives you the analysis of the full division. Okay, if division is very large, if division can have sometimes subdivision, say in case of Tata Group, Titan is one division, and in Titan there are division called as watch division, and then there is a jewelry division. One is Titan watch, another is jewelry, which is Tanishq. So Titan division in itself is very large, and it is having multiple subdivisions which is also having different independent business. Then ROI is not that fruitful. Okay, are you understanding my concept? So ROI is not for different activities that you are doing within a division. ROI is a percentage, it is not an absolute measure. So sometimes percentages confuse us. Why? Because this is a basic thing that we also learn in capital budgeting in case of IRR and NPV. So if there is opportunity 1 or option number 1 whereby ROI is say 40%, but the total return or profit is only 10 lakhs, but another option where ROI is say 30%, but the total return can be 90 lakhs, and that will be of course due to different investment size which is involved in the options. So ideally you may choose that I will go for 40%, but you will only earn 10 lakhs. What is our idea? We don't want to increase a percentage return, we always want absolute return. Okay, so we want always absolute return more. So that's the disadvantage, that it's not an absolute measure, and it encourages short term decisions. And how it will encourage short term decision, please focus. How it will encourage short term decision, please focus. Say there is a division which is having a constant ROI of say 38%. Now there is a new project whose ROI is say 20%. New project whose ROI is 20%. There is a new project whose ROI is 20%. Okay, so seeing this current ROI, this division will reject this new project. But say the group's cost of capital is only 12%. Group's cost of capital is only 12%. So group says that anything that can recover my cost of capital is viable for me. But this divisional manager will not try to use this project for itself. Why? Because if it is using, the average return of the division by using this project will fall. So even though the project is beneficial for the group, the divisional manager may reject it. That's what I've written over here. It encourages
short term or optimal decision. Manager might reject a project with ROI of 20% as it may cause its ROI to fall from 38 to 35. For instance, say average will become later 35%. So if I am falling from 38 to 35, I will not accept this new project, but for the group's perspective, this project is useful, this project is beneficial. Okay, so we have next measure which we call as residual income. These are all to measure the financial aspects. Residual income is calculated how? First you need controllable profit, and from that you deduct the cost of doing business. Cost of doing business means KO into capital invested in that division. Controllable profit concept is same, which is what? You have to ignore the HO expense or any other expense for which our division is not responsible, and minus capital into KO. Capital means amount of capital used in the division multiplied by cost of doing business from the view of group. So this gives a residual income. Means residual means surplus. Residual word means surplus income over the cost of doing business. Okay, so this is an absolute measure. So that's the advantage here. It is not misguiding by percentage. We always want absolute. Okay, we always want absolute return, so it is an absolute return, so it guides us well. And it can also compare returns of different activities within a division. Like I told you, in case of Titan, we can find residual income from watch, and we can find residual income from your jewelry business. But ROI considers always in wholesome. So residual income can be computed usually for different activities also. Disadvantage is what? Again, residual income for a division with high investment will always be higher. That means, say division A is there and division B is there. Okay, so it has got investment of 100 lakhs and it has got investment of 500 lakhs. So you see, profit is say 10 lakhs, say profit is 20 lakhs here, or say 40 lakhs for example, and here profit is 100 lakhs. So if you see ROI is better in division A, which is 40%, and in division B it is 20%. But say cost of capital is at the rate of 5% for example. So 5% here is 5 lakh and 5% here is 25 lakh. So residual income will be here 35 lakh and here 75 lakh. So if you see clearly that division B is generating only 20% return ROI, division A is generating 40%. So as per ROI, A is more profitable. Okay, but residual income will always be higher in the division where more investment has been done. So this is only limitation of residual income option. So what is the solution for this? The solution for this is, remedy for this is, we should give target residual income to the division based on their investment size. The target should be made, and then target should be compared with their actual to understand whether they have been able to perform better or not. So it does not facilitate comparison between investment centers, because investment centers can be having different investment size, and size of centers income manage करने के लिए you need to have a remedy by giving different targets, to different division. Does not relate the size of centers income to the size of investment. Income and investment can never be related here. So there is some common issue with ROI and RI. Common issues are what? Investments. Common issues what? Investment calculation is not defined, and neither profit approach is defined. So in investment, what will be the cost of asset, replacement cost or historical cost, not defined. Calculation of investment, what will be included or excluded, not defined. HO assets will be included or not defined. Methods of depreciation, valuation of inventory, all these are not defined in the process of ROI and RI. These are basically dependent on organizations' own accounting policies. In case that divisions are having their own accounting policy, then two divisions may not be comparable. One is having SLM, another is having WDV. So the way of calculating investment is different in both the division. So the two division may not be comparable. And way of calculating profit, whether it will be operating profit or just the PAT, it is also not defined. So one can consider PAT, another is considering operating profit. So group needs to, if a group is following RI and ROI as a performance measure, then group needs to define all this, then only this will be effective. That's the idea. We are not just criticizing ROI, RI, we are saying that since these are not defined, in order to keep your information comparable, group needs to write policies like how this ROI will be submitted or RI will be submitted to the head office in order to compare. Okay, like say in case of our ROC filings, you know, the filing formats have been defined by our government. In case of tax audit, format has been defined. Why? Format is being defined because that help them in comparing different companies across the sectors. So that's how group needs to define the formats of the calculation of investment or profit to effectively use ROI and RI. And then there is behavioral issues, is what anyone can manipulate the calculations of investment even though you have defined the way of calculating, and how they does not scrap an old machinery, delaying replacement of new machine, delaying payables. So they will try to use their brain in order that investment amount should not show higher. So if they do that, what will happen? Ultimately investment amount will not be shown higher, so ROI will be higher. So we will be by mistakenly rewarding the divisions who are not performing for us in the long term. So that's why we are saying that you should not just focus on the financial performance. So in any question of case study whereby you are writing about RI or ROI, you should always write that in order to have goal congruency or align the departmental goal or divisional goal with the corporate goal, the company should always measure non-financial aspects of the divisions, and those can be customer satisfaction rate in the divisions, those can be employee retention ratio or employee turnover ratio in the divisions, those can be how they are improving in other business processes. So all those are also important to measure their performance. Lastly, it is EVA. EVA is basically a well-defined RI. RI ही है, it's RI only, but it is a well-defined RI, which is we are saying EVA is equal to no PAT minus cost of doing business. Now no PAT is also defined in EVA. How will you calculate? And cost of doing business is saying that in EVA opening capital employed multiplied by KO. Remember, it's not capital employed or average capital employed, it's opening capital employed multiplied by KO. So no PAT, how do you calculate no PAT? It is EBIT into 1 minus T. Okay, but there are certain adjustments that you need to do in no PAT. Okay, you can just take a snapshot of this and check it out with one of the sum which is given in your institute material. Okay, so this is important to go through once. If say any adjustment based EVA will come, you may not be able to do if you have not read the adjustments. Okay, so it's like EBIT, if it is given, then it is supposed to have minus tax expenses, EBIT minus tax expenses. So ideally it is tax paid, remember, it's not the tax expenses, it is supposed to be tax paid, and tax should be always the amount of tax adjusted with tax savings if you are earning anything due to interest, minus tax savings on interest. This is we call as net tax. So there are different sums on this in our institute material. You must have done some of them until now, so you must check it out. How do you are finding EBIT minus tax paid is equal to no PAT, and if say there is any kind of non-financial adjustment here, like provision, if there is any, you need to add it back. If say there is depreciation, in the EVA concept we say you should charge economic depreciation, not the accounting depreciation. Accounting depreciation is normal SLM or WDV. Economic depreciation is real impairment in the value of asset. So if it is given accounting and economic depreciation, then add back accounting depreciation and subtract economic depreciation. And if there is any kind of expense which is going to have long-term impact, for example R&D, staff training, advertisement campaign, then it should be added back as a capital expenditure. So all those I have written all the critical point over here. You should always follow this. In exam you may have question may both opening and closing capital employed, so ignore closing capital employed and only consider opening capital employed. So when you are adding back, adjustment, there is one adjustment when you are adding back any provision, okay, so that means it needs to be added back to the respective asset. Say provision for doubtful debt you are adding back in your EBIT, so it needs to be added back to your debtors also. But provision for doubtful debt affects the closing capital employed, not the opening capital employed. Remember, that's why I have written here opening capital employed. Opening capital employed will be affected from the last year's provision. Current year provision will be affecting current year's capital employed, but in EVA we are using opening capital employed. So I am writing here intentionally adjust it with above items if previous year's profit are given with items for adjustment. Okay, so opening capital employed needs adjustment only if previous year's profit is also given, and that requires certain adjustments. Got it? Then shareholder value added is basically present value of future cash flows in a division, that is shareholders value added, which is we do in SFM, intrinsic value of the firm, if you remember. So shareholder value added is basically based on free cash flow for the firm, or you can say free cash flow for equity, depending upon the scenario for whom you are doing the calculation. Okay, so these are some important critical discussion. Financial aspects of divisions can be evaluated using RI, ROI or EVA. Okay, and also I want to discuss here two important transfer pricing, dual rate tariff and two-part transfer pricing. Dual rate tariff is basically a transfer pricing where transferor division will be transferring to the transferee at cost plus price. Okay, so it will record its profit due to transfer also, but transferee division will record the receipts at the cost of the transferor, not the sale price of the transferor. So if say cost is say 50 rupees in transferor hands and transferor is keeping a profit of 20 rupees and transferring at 70, okay, transferring is done at 70, then transferor is recording the transaction at 70 and booking profit 20 rupees for itself, but transferee will record its purchase at 50 rupees, which is the cost of the transferor. So transferor needs to disclose its cost to the transferee. Transferee will know the cost of the transfer and consider its cost as the cost of transfer, which is 50 rupees, not 70 rupees. So based on that he will work out its profitability, or pricing decision will be taken in this division. Okay, so whatever profitability is being shown by the transferee here, so you cannot say that the group profit will be transferor's profit plus transferee's profit. Why? Because there is a difference in the recording of transaction. It has recorded the transaction at 70, it is recording the transaction at 50. So there is a difference in the value of transaction. So the profit of group cannot be just adding of this to profit. The profit of the group has to be adjusted with the difference in the amount of transaction. So total profit of the group will be division, transfer division's profit, transferee division's profit, add it up and then subtract the difference in the amount of adjustment of transaction being recorded by these two division. So you will subtract that say 20 rupees from the total profit, then you will get the group profit. And why this is required, this kind of transfer pricing? It helps a company to decentralize the pricing process in the hands of transferee division, and whereby transferee division needs more power, more information to set up a price so that the group does not lose anything. The idea of disclosing the cost of transferor to the transferee is that the group should not lose anything because of transferee's pricing policy. So if say transferee is going into a new market or is a new division whereby it needs more liberty in setting its own price, then group may impose just that, okay, I will disclose the cost to you, my cost to you, but you should know that you should not make any loss to me. So that's how dual transfer pricing is set up. And lastly, two-part transfer pricing is what? When transferor and transferee division are having a negotiation for transfer price in a way that transferor will charge from transferee two types of price. One is variable price, another is fixed price. Fixed price is basically a lump sum amount that will be paid by transferee each year to the transferor. Maybe say 10 lakh rupees per annum will be given, which acts as a recovery of fixed cost and profit for the transferor. And there will be a variable pricing for every unit, which will be say at the variable cost of the transferor. That can be say just 10 rupees. Two-part transfer pricing. For example, I remember one time I was booking a car with a travel agent in just online, trying to book a car for our local conveyance online. That time Ola Uber was not there. So when I called one of the company that I want a car, so they said that we don't give car in this way, that the way you are looking for. You will have to first become our member, which is at the cost of say rupees, one time payment of rupees say 20,000 rupees. Example, I don't remember the amount that time they have asked me. So that is a fixed charge they are charging me. And then after that, at any time when you are hiring a car, you just need to pay us say 10 rupees per kilometer. So 20,000 they are charging a fixed amount, and then 10 rupees per kilometer will be the variable charge. Now on the contrary, other travel agents were charging straight away 15 rupees per kilometer. There is no fixed charge. So this is how two-part pricing is there. Two-part pricing is one fixed charge will be there, which can be an annual charge or one-time charge, and then there will be a variable charge. Okay, so this way some negotiation is arrived at between transferor and transferee. And when this happens, I will say when there is a continuous need of transferor and transferee among one another, that transferor has to always work for transferee continuously, and transferor needs to be independent as well in terms of its own performance evaluation. So when there is a continuous need of resources, need of flow of resources among one another, two-part transfer pricing can be followed. Okay, so these two are there. I will also highlight here this particular paragraph, which will help you to understand or analyze the transfer price in your case study based questions. One, if transfer price is being set in case of perfect external market, then transferor should charge the external market price. That means transferor's market is perfect. Transfer is going to get the full market for sure. Okay, so transfer will charge its market price, as any lower price will demotivate the transferor. If transferor's market is imperfect, if transferor has got not certain market, it is having some idle capacity, in that case different ways of transfer pricing can be there. Sometimes transferor does not sell at all to the external market, imperfect external market. Okay, so in that case if there is no external market, then I'll take it up later. No external market, then imperfect external market means I have some market outside in, if I am a transfer division, but I am not able to sell regularly there at my own price. Market is very dynamic there, and my quantity is also not sure how much I can sell in the market. That is imperfect market, and in that case transfer price can be number one, standard cost. Standard cost is one of the best transfer price. If things has to be transferred to the transferee, then transfer price at standard cost is one of the best way. Why? Because actual cost can be sometimes higher. So if all actual cost is always recoverable from the transferee, then there is no motivation or no incentive for the transferor to control the cost. If say only standard cost can be charged from the transferee, then if cost overrun is there in the transfer division responsibility will be there to control the cost. Okay, transfer division cost cannot be controlled by transferee division, right? So if any time cost overrun is there, and if that is not chargeable, so transfer divisional manager will be more cautious. So that is standard cost. Then actual cost can be also charged. Actual cost can be charged means what? Actual cost can be charged means what? it is sometimes if the actual cost is charged, then it becomes unfair for the transferee to pay for the all actual cost. So we have one question in our case studies for transfer pricing related to some training division, if you remember, whereby two-part transfer pricing is also being discussed. So there the training department was charging the entire actual cost to the consulting department, whereby consulting department manager was raising objection that why I am being charged for the entire actual cost, isn't he having any responsibility of controlling the cost. So that's how actual cost, when it is charged to the transferee feels it unjustified and unfair. Or it can be variable cost based transfer. Now variable cost can be standard or actual, standard variable cost or actual variable cost. So which one is preferable? Always standard variable cost. So if variable cost is used as a transfer basis for transfer, then transferor is not motivated because he is not recovering fixed cost or profit. If full cost is used as basis for transfer, then also transfer is not motivated because it is not making any profit. If full cost plus is used as a basis for transfer, then also there is a problem that how much should be the profit. Okay, so in all these cases, you know, there is a need for negotiation. Whenever the transfer happens in case of imperfect external market, there is a need of negotiation. Sometimes head office need to dictate the policy, or sometimes they need to mutually decide. Okay, so it can be something like in this imperfect market, in this case only we say it can be something like two-part transfer pricing. Okay, here it also it is written the problem can be overcome by two-part or sometimes by dual rate transfer pricing, or some other kind of negotiation, can be also there. Now if there is no external market of the transferor, then what should be the transfer price? If there is no external market, we say that the transfer should be at variable cost, but that will not motivate. See, if you have to solve a sum, the transfer can be at variable cost, that is minimum transfer price. But why will this transferor division remain motivated if it is a profit center and if there is no external market also? Okay, understood. But since it is working day night for transferee division and it is not getting any profit, it will not feel motivated. So greater than variable cost of the transferor, but less than net marginal value of the transferee. You know, one question has been asked in our past exam, whereby the question was asking that what should be the best negotiated way of transfer price. So in theory we study that if nothing is mentioned about negotiation, you can recommend two-part or dual rate. Okay, so some students had written two-part dual rate, but they did not get marks. Why? Because in that question there was no external market of the transferor. So the best transfer price would be basically a transfer pricing range, and that range would be greater than variable cost and less than the net marginal revenue. You remember we do calculations here. Minimum transfer price would be the variable cost plus contribution lost, and maximum transfer price would be lower of, you remember, lower of outside purchase price or net marginal revenue. So that way the range of negotiation will come. So negotiation does not always mean that it will be two-part or dual rate. Negotiation will mean sometimes the range of transfer price which is minimum and maximum. Okay, so if market is such in transferor that demand is very sensitive to selling price, then transfer price will be fixed in line. If it is fixed in line with the market price, then market price would be first determined, which will be the price where MR is equal to MC. Remember, when transferor's market is such that transferor is having a sensitive demand, means price is sensitive to demand, and transfer price is to be set in such a way that transfer price is equal to market price of the transferor, then first market price will be determined by equating MR is equal to MC, and that will become the transfer price. And if there is capacity constraints in the transferor division, say transferor has got limited capacity and it is not able to fulfill the external market demand also, it has got such a limited capacity, then it will be optimizing its capacity by ranking and allocation in key factor concept. If you remember, ranking and allocation will be done over here, and once ranking and allocation has been done here, then it knows how it is operating in its limited capacity. Now if any need of transfer comes, then you remember we will release the capacity for the transfer in order to have goal congruency. We will release the capacity in order of least profitable product. So transfer price will be what? Cost to be incurred for the transfer plus contribution lost in order of least preferred product. I will release my capacity for the transfer, and capacity will be released from least profitable product, and then the work of transfer will be done. So transfer price would be cost to be incurred plus contribution lost, and in some cases this price can be detected by HO also. And if market condition of transfer is uncertain, see, transferee's market is uncertain, but transferor is having a sacrifice because of transfer, then transfer price charged would be the market price of the transfer or cost plus contribution lost of the transferor. If transferee's price is uncertain, transferee's market is uncertain, then that does not affect the transfer price. Transfer price charged by the transferor is not affected due to it. Got it? So this you need to remember, guys. This helps you to write case studies sometimes, or say if in question analysis of transfer pricing calculation is asked in the exam. So this is transfer pricing from my side. This is transfer pricing from my side. Okay, I will also bring your attention to standard costing, some part of standard costing. See, in standard costing, just try to listen what I am saying. If there is a simple question of finding variance, you check the verb they have used. If it is calculate material variance, for example, then you just calculate and leave. If it is analyze material variance, if it is interpret material variance, analyze or interpret, in that case what you will do is you will calculate material variance as usual. It can be done through working note also, and then using the results you will write answer in your comments, in the form of comments, that material price variance of this product is this much favorable, and it may be due to, if some information is given in the question, then try to incorporate that. It may be due to this and this reason, so and so reason. And similarly, material usage variance is favorable and it may be due to this and this reason. Try to interconnect price variance with usage variance. If say we are having higher price variance, that means what, we have bought good quality materials, so that may result in favorable usage variance. So adverse price variance may also result in usage variance. Try to cross link your variance in your answer, and for this I have given the table here to make you understand how variances are cross linked. If you want, you can take a snapshot from here to read by yourself later on. So try to relate price variance with usage variance, rate variance with efficiency variance, sales price variance with sales volume variance. Okay, so that is one basic thing. And also, you know, when we study variance, I always discuss with you reasons for each of the variance. Like what can be the reasons of price variances? You remember, some reasons are controllable, some are uncontrollable. What can be the reasons of usage variance? Try to use those points as well, like why usage variance has occurred, why mix variance might have occurred, why yield variance might have occurred. And if any of the point is also there in your question as a case study, then use that point also in your reasons. So calculation will be one part and then comment will be another part. Yes, aquatic feed question is having a printing mistake, you're right. Okay, Chandan. Standard costing, there is a case study aquatic feed, there is some typing error in institute material, so that you can correct. Okay, so what I am saying is how you have to write the answer. Now another thing is, as you know, the institute is more demanding to focus on planning, operating and traditional variance. So I want to discuss a snapshot of that also. Planning, operating and traditional variance. What are those? Planning, operating and traditional variances. Normally we have standard which we call as original standard. In order of comparison, if you have to compute for cost variances, it will be original standard for actual output, and then there will be actuals. Normally what we have is original and actual, original standard and actual. This is normal standard and actual details. For actual output is written for cost variance, and if it is sales variance, we just say original budget. Now when we prepare this, we call this as original standard. Okay, this is called as also ex ante standard. Remember, this is also called as ex ante standard. What do we call this as? Ex ante. Okay, now we can also have a new standard after certain elapse of the days, which we call as revised standard for actual output. What is revised standard? That say this was the standard for entire year. Now after 3 months we realize that whatever we have set here, that is not possible. So by experiencing the current scenario, we revise the standard. This is called as ex post standard. This is called as ex post. Whatever be the reason for this revision, we generally understand that these revisions are uncontrollable generally, but there can be some instance that these are controllable. But anyway, for this revision there can be some profit or loss, some adverse or favorable situation can be there. For this deviation we cannot charge our managers. It is the planning department who will be responsible for this, that is the top management, and the variances are called as planning variances. These variances are called as planning variances. Got it? And by comparing this with this, we call the variances as operating variances, and for this our operating managers are responsible. Now further we classify this as controllable and uncontrollable. Controllable part and uncontrollable part. Operating variances are usually always controllable because all uncontrollable elements are covered in planning variance. Okay, so whenever you are doing any variance analysis, be it material variance, labor variance, overhead variance, sales variance, you can be asked to understand it in two ways: original standard, revised standard. And even if the question is not asked you to find planning and operating variance, but the details of original and revised standards are given, you must find planning and operating variance, else you will not get good marks, full marks. Okay, and you have to analyze again planning variance as also uncontrollable and controllable if say details are available. So we have sums on this specifically in our case studies. One uncontrollable controllable planning variance sum is there related to material variance. Okay, that sum you can check where the company is doing mistake in selecting the material. Company is doing a mistake in selecting the material every time. So there the mistake is controllable also in some aspect. So if they could have selected the correct material, the planning error would not be there. So if mistake could be rectified, then it is controllable. If mistake cannot be rectified, it is uncontrollable. Okay, so that sum you need to see. I am not going into that sum discussion right now. I am just talking about the conceptual aspect. And for this I have one special note here. I will just show you the page number. Standard costing is page . Yeah, here only. You see, these are all formulas of standard costing for revision purpose. This book is focused on everything, both theory and practical summaries. So I was just showing you this ex ante standard and ex post standard. Ex ante standard set before the event based upon forecast, which is original standard, and then there is revised standard, which is ex post standard set after the event based upon some actual circumstances. So when you are comparing this to, it becomes planning. When you are comparing this to, it becomes operating. Usually planning is uncontrollable, but in some cases it can be controllable also. It can be controllable or uncontrollable or both. Usually it is uncontrollable. Operating variances are always controllable. Okay, traditional is comparison between these two. If you are comparing this two, it is traditional, original standard versus actual. Okay, so what I wanted to show you is there are some special notes over here which will help you to solve sums. Traditional variance is planning variance plus operating variance. This cross check can be applied, but only at the total level, MCV, LCV, and not at sub variance level. That means in case of MPV, LRV, LEV, you will not be able to cross check this, but in total level, MCV, LCV, you will be able to cross check this. Second, I have written to just elaborate this, MCV traditional is equal to MCV planning plus MCV operating. And say question is asking you to find sales margin volume variance or sales quantity variance. First of all, whenever question is asking sales variance, and if in question cost details are also given, you always find the sales margin variance, not the sales value variance. This you, I hope, remember. If cost details are given, always find in terms of margin, not in terms of sales price. And if say question is asking you to classify sales variance in terms of planning and operating, and in question the market size is also given, market share can be calculated, market size is industry size, then just you have to remember that market size variance is planning variance, which we call as uncontrollable, and market share variance is we always call as operating variance, which are controllable. Okay, you remember sales margin variance ka two parts were there, market size, sales margin volume variance ka two parts were there. Sales margin volume has got two parts, mix and quantity. Remember, margin volume variance has got two parts, mix and quantity. And then quantity has got two parts, which is market size and market share. Quantity has also got two parts, market size and market share. So sometimes sales mix is not applicable. If mix is not applicable, then volume variance will be equal to quantity variance. And from that there will be two parts, market size and market share. So size variance is always planning variance and share variance is always operating variance. Many times questions will specifically ask find sales margin volume planning variance. Now you will get confused. What is this? The planning variance means nothing but market size. Sales margin volume operating variance means market share. Got it? So if you have to do reconciliation also using your planning and operating variance, so if you are starting from original budget profit, that means it is based on original standard, you will end at actual. You remember you have to add sales margin variances and cost variance. So sales margin variance has got two parts, price and volume. So price is sales margin price is also same as sales price. If you remember, it is also equal to sales margin price. Profit price variance and sales price variance is always same, if you remember. And there can be planning operating in each case. So if planning operating is there, then break it, because you are trying to match original with actual. So in between original and actual there is planning operating, two variances na? From here it is planning and here it is operating. So when you are making a reconciliation from here to here, that means what you have to do is you have to add planning and operating variance wherever applicable. So there are questions in our institute material for standard costing where reconciliation is being done, and in that reconciliation statements we are first finding all planning operating variances of material, labor, variable overhead, sales margin. First we are finding all planning operating, material planning operating, labor planning operating, all breakup as much as possible. That we are first doing and then putting it all in one statement to show the reconciliation. Okay, so you should check that sum also where reconciliation is being done. This is important. And I was also talking about some advanced aspect of standard costing. This has not yet been tested in the exam as yet, but still I thought that I must share with you. This I thought that I must share with you. Advanced variance. Yeah, here. So variance, if you will see how the variance report should be obtained. See, this table I have already discussed about cross linking. So this cross linking you can take a snapshot, cross linking snapshot you can take. Cross linkage of snapshot you can take. Every variance is connected with another variance. If you have favorable labor efficiency, there can be, that means you are saving in labor rates, labor hours, there can be more wastages, so MUV can be adverse. If you have sale price favorable, volume can be adverse. So there is some cross connection with the variance. Variance should never be studied in isolation. This is the main line that I always say. Variance should never be studied in isolation. It will help you in analyzing. If say a sum is there in analysis, you know all the calculation, but analysis is there, so you can always cross connect. You see that material price variance is adverse, so it may be affecting its material usage variance. Okay, so that way you can write cross linkage about any of the variance. So if industry size variance is favorable, sales volume variance is also favorable. If industry size variance is favorable, sales volume variance is also favorable. Okay, growth in industry gives a growth in volume, so you just cannot rely only on sales volume, you need to see other variance also that way. Okay, so next is variance reports. There are some features of variance reports, that is informing the concerned manager about the performance. Report should intimate the manager. It should also cover the steps for correction. It should be prompt. It should give an analysis and cause of variance. This part only usually exam asks you, analyze the variance. So analyze variance means what? You should go into root cause of why the variance might have occurred. And based on management by exception means, where management by exception is a principle whereby action is only required if there is an exception. So it's not necessary that if just adverse variance has come, there is a requirement of action. You can set a tolerance level. Say maybe if variance adverse is 10%, then I will take action. So if there is an exception, then take action. Not every adverse variance needs to be acted upon. Magnitude of variance should be stated, means amount of variance or percentage of variance. Okay, there is one point that which type of variance needs to be controlled, adverse or favorable? Can anyone answer? Which type of variance needs to be controlled, adverse variance or favorable variance? Which type of variance needs to be controlled, adverse variance or favorable variance? Can anyone answer if you are with me? Which type of variance needs to be controlled, adverse or favorable? Say I have set a tolerance limit of 10%. Say I have set a tolerance limit of 10%. So there is an adverse variance which is beyond 10%, and there is a favorable variance which is showing 10% favorable, more than 10% favorable. So answer is both. Yes, you are correct. Perfect. Thank you so much. The answer is you have to always correct both the variance, control both the variance. Thank you so much. So with again, like budgetary control, there were behavioral issues. With variance analysis also there are some behavioral issues. One is it can encourage short-termism. That means our managers may only focus on the achieving of standard. Okay, they may not think the cross impact of any variance. So material price variance, if it is adverse, it is good quality material, may increase goodwill in the long run, but perceived negatively at present. So if any manager has brought adverse MPV, you will fire him, you will shout at him, but actually it may bring a long-term favorable effect. So variance analysis is not for long-term perspective. Okay, so solution is what? Solution is include both qualitative and quantitative measures to encourage management to adopt a long-term view. Then negative perception of employees. Again, managers may consider this as a fault finding feature. They may again resort to suboptimal behavior. They may introduce budgetary slacks. So for all these perception changing, you need to involve them in the standard or budget setting process. Okay. So there can be some ethical issues with variance analysis. That means you may try to resort to favorable variance by sometimes compromising with the ethics. Ethics means in case of hospital, if you're trying to bring in favorable variances in your profits, it may be at the cost of the health of your patients. So that's how variance is also asking us that we should be ethical in our organization. We should not be just focusing on the favorable variances. Okay. Next, standard costing in contemporary business environment means in nowadays current business environment, what are the problems with standard costing? Their products are not standardized, standard cost becomes outdated, products are highly automated, standards, sometimes we try to use ideal standard which are very tough to achieve. There is always a continuous improvement, so standards being reduced every time. Sometimes analysis may not give enough detail, reports arrive too late. So these are, you can say, some of the limitations of standard costing. So if say some case study is there whereby you have to highlight some limitations of the variance analysis system, you can highlight these points. Then variance analysis in ABC, most of the standard costing question asked until now was related to activity based costing only. Here the trick is you find standard cost for actual drivers. You find standard cost for actual output, standard cost for actual output by taking, like we take the hours rate amount or we take quantity price amount. Here it will be drivers rate and amount. And same way there will be actual cost. Here also it will be drivers rate and amount. Okay. So standard cost for actual output, and then there is actual cost. There will be drivers rate amount. Got it? The idea is in activity based costing, what we are doing is overheads, we are breaking it into different activities. Overheads are there, we are breaking it into different activities. Standard costing assumes that all activity costs are variable cost. And they are varying with their own drivers. Okay, so whatever be your activity cost, you have to find that driver which is actually changing that activity cost. Standard costing assumes that all activity costs are variable cost with varying with their own cost drivers. For example, receiving cost is there, its driver will be number of receipts, number of batches received. So number of lot received, batches received, or number of purchase orders, for example. So it is having its own drivers. So those driver detail will be given to you in question for budget and for actual. But what you will be copying here is the requirement for actual output. Don't just copy the budgeted detail here. You will change this budget for actual output, and then rate would be standard rate, and then amount will come. Actual can be copied, pasted, and then variance will be analyzed just like variable overhead variance. There will be expenditure variance and efficiency variance. Got it? Then variance analysis with learning curve effect. In case of learning curve theory, if you remember, use of learning rate helps us in determining the future time required for specific unit or specific lot. Okay, use of learning rate helps us in determining the future time to be taken for a specific unit or specific lot. So that future time would be standard time, and then based on that standard you can compare it with actual. So learning rate gives us the standard time for a specific batch or a specific production unit. Okay, it helps in setting standards. It is not for automated, no impact in automated manufacturing, because in automated environment learning rate is not applicable. Then there is relevant cost approach in variance analysis. From this May 18 exam, one question was asked. What happens here is, first of all, it follows marginal costing approach. First, remember, it follows marginal costing approach of variance analysis. That means you will use contribution in your sales margin variance. Okay. Second point is, it is applicable whenever there is scarcity of input or scarcity of resource. Material is scarce, for example. If material is scarce, then if you are using extra material, that is usage variance will be adverse. Now usage variance is adverse, then what happens is, if material is scarce, you are not able to produce the required output also. So because of scarcity of material, you are losing contribution, okay, because you are not getting plenty of materials. If say material available is only 1000 kgs, okay, and it is scarce, that means you cannot get free supply of material. So what we do is we also find contribution per kg of material. Per kg is say 5 rupees. Now MUV is showing that the material to be used was 800 and you have used 1000 kgs. Okay, so MUV is adverse. As you can see, MUV is adverse. I will not multiply this by 5 because here it has to be multiplied by the price of material. It is contribution per kg. So these two are different. So MUV is adverse. You were supposed to use 800, you have used 1000. So MUV is adverse. Whose responsibility? Production manager responsibility. Now because of MUV being adverse, you were not able to use 200 kgs wisely. As a consequence, the output produced has got reduced. 200 kgs extra usage has resulted in lesser output. So lesser output means lesser contribution volume variance. Contribution volume variance is the responsibility of sales manager. So because of wastage done by production manager, sales manager will be charged for lower contribution volume variance. So our standard costing study is saying that any extra usage of scarce resource by production manager will also result in contribution lost due to it, and that contribution loss has to be borne by production manager, not sales manager. So because of extra usage of 200 kgs of material here, contribution lost is at the rate of 5 rupees, rupees 1000. So MUV will be plus 1000. The normal MUV plus contribution lost due to MUV. Got it? And this 1000 rupees effect will be reduced from the contribution volume variance, so that sales manager is not penalized for this. This is the whole understanding of relevant cost approach to variance analysis. Variance analysis in throughput accounting. You have to check the sums. Solution is you have to check from the institute material. It was asked in May 18 exam. You have to check once. There is one material scarce case, another case is there labor is scarce. There are two different cases in that sum. So you have to check once. So if labor is scarce, then labor efficiency variance will be having the contribution lost effect. Okay. Then variance analysis in throughput accounting. Throughput accounting, if you remember, here we talk about bottleneck, and in order to keep continuous supply to the bottleneck, in order to make sure bottleneck works at full capacity, what we do is we keep a buffer inventory before the bottleneck. So in case of variance analysis in throughput environment, we just track this buffer inventory, whether it is as desired or not. If it is lower, it is adverse. If it is higher, it is okay, but it too high will increase your carrying cost, or WIP capital will be blocked. So it should not be too high, also it should not be too low, but focus is not on variance adverse or favorable. Focus is on just ensuring that there is always a buffer in front of bottleneck, so that my production is smooth. Okay, so this is the basic idea in variance here, tracking variation in the size of inventory buffer. And when we do this, we generally expect that if say lot of buffer has already come before the bottleneck, that means non-bottleneck needs to stop now. Non-bottlenecks, if they keep producing buffer, will keep increasing. So if non-bottleneck has stopped its production, there all the labor efficiency variance will start becoming adverse now. So that cannot be helped with. It will result into a negative labor efficiency variance that cannot be helped, because our prime focus in throughput accounting is on the size of inventory. Okay, next, in advanced manufacturing environment, highly automated environment, how standard costing is important. Most of the cost here becomes fixed. Only two main costs remains, which is material and power. So focus remains on just material variance and power or variable overhead variance. Standard costing in public sector, there are some case study, in one or two case study related to this, which also incorporates KPIs. Basically it will incorporate all non-financial KPIs in order to analyze the performance there. It cannot be based on just the financial aspect. So KPIs are number of visits made, number of hours worked. KPIs are important here. KPIs are needed. So investigation of variance means now you want to search whether there is what is the reason for variance, and we want to take steps to minimize the variance. So what are the factors to be considered before investigating? Variance analysis requires resources. When you're doing variance analysis, it requires resources. You need a team, you need people who will be doing variance analysis, who will be thinking what should be the standard, who will be coming up with suggestions on how to rectify the variances. So not all variances indicate out of control situations. That's the main idea here. Not all variances indicate out of control situations. It doesn't mean that every time any variance is coming, that means you need to worry about. So you need to have some tolerance level set, and anything going beyond that level, that you need to correct only. And when you are correcting, there should be some factors. One is size of variance, that is amount involved, type of variance, adverse or favorable, both should be investigated, but you will consider both the types. Cost of investigating, pattern in variance. If worsening, then investigation is required. If it's getting normalized, then investigation is not required. And also you need to check how you are setting up the budget or the standards, how you are setting. If your fault is there in standard setting, then always the variance will come. So factors that need to be thought is size, type, cost, budgetary process, and pattern. So there are some methods which I am not going into. If you need any assistance on this, there is a video you will find on our YouTube channel, investigation of variances के ऊपर, so that you can refer. I am just touching it in short. Okay, so with this, if you see, I have reached to some time limit of today's session. I will also ask you to just check out target costing versus standard costing, target costing versus standard costing, and Kaizen versus standard costing also, because that can be sometimes a case study based question in exam. Target costing versus standard costing and Kaizen versus standard costing. So I will take you to that discussion, small discussion. Target costing. Yeah, you see here, target costing versus standard costing. Standard costing is doing what? It is controlling the cost by keeping the actual cost within the predetermined cost. But target challenges the standard, it challenges the standard cost. Now in standard costing, what we do is we first design the product, then its cost, and then based on that, in standard costing what we are doing is we first design the product, then its cost, and then the selling price. But in target costing, first it design, then the price, then the cost. Okay, and in target costing we don't do revise frequently. Here I'm again saying target costing. In standard costing we don't revise frequently. Here we revise frequently. Standard costing is short term, target costing is medium term, not too long term also, because we keep changing here things frequently, so it cannot be very long term. Okay, so just a basic idea of target and standard. And then there is something called as Kaizen and standard. Kaizen costing versus standard costing. You see just 3 lines. Kaizen costing is focused on cost reduction, but standard is on cost control. Kaizen will challenge the standard again and set small standards and reduce continuously. Here long-term stable standards are set. Kaizen requires employee participation in standard setting, but standard costing will never ask for employee participation. So this point actually makes a bit different, Kaizen versus standard. You can use focus on cost reduction and focus on cost control in target costing versus standard costing also. You can use this point in target versus standard costing also. The second point as well, set small standards and reduce continuously. But what small standard doesn't go with target costing. In Kaizen, what we do is we set our small desired levels and challenge continuously. Set small standards and challenge continuously means we continuously try to reduce our standards and see whether we are able to achieve our quality in that reduced standard or not. That is Kaizen all about. Kaizen requires employee participations. It's very important to write about this point when you're writing about Kaizen. It also describes all roles and responsibility of employees. It involves collective decision making. So Kaizen gives all the credit of improvement to its employees always. That's the Japanese way of controlling the cost. Okay, so rest all are common points which you can always write, but employee participation, employee involvement, roles and responsibility of employees clearly, collective decision making, these all are some critical points that you may tend to miss when you're writing about Kaizen costing. Okay, so friends, time is less. I will not take up much of your time. I tried to cover all performance evaluation chapters with you. There are many chapters. I will suggest that there are some topics which are, I think, very important for upcoming exam. One is gain sharing. Please take a note of this gain sharing arrangement. I am just showing you a page. Gain sharing arrangement, according to me, it is very important for exam, so you must go through it properly. It is an arrangement between our suppliers and ourselves, whereby we agree to share gains arising from any of the suggestions given by supplier, which will result in modification of our system. Okay, or if we will give suggestion to supplier and they will modify that, and if there is a gain to them, then whatever gain we will earn in the process will be shared among us. Here there can be different types of contract. One contract can be say supplier is saying that I will take money from you only if I prove you that my product will give you some gains. But that kind of contract is really impractical now, because no one will risk themselves up to this extent, right? But there can be this kind of contract that supplier will say that my team will work with you to help you use the raw materials that I am selling to you in my way, whereby you will be able to reduce some cost. Supplier is proposing it this way, and supplier is saying that if as a result there is a gain, we will share it, say 50-50 in first year, 60-40 in second year. Any kind of arrangement can be made. Okay, so an agreement whereby any benefit earned during an execution of contract will be shared by both the parties. Ideally we understand it from supplier and our point of view. It can also be from customer point of view and company point of view, employee point of view and company point of view, but the idea of this is from supplier point of view. We are going to our supplier, having a gain sharing arrangement with them, that they will be paid not the full price now, they will be paid some amount now, but next amount will be paid only if there is a gain from their supply. So they will need to work with us together, okay, then only the gain will be achieved. It's not the supplier's job, it is a combined job. There can be reasons of failure of the gain sharing arrangement if the arrangement is not well structured, if there is error in implementation, if there is poor relationship between outsourced supplier and the entity. Precaution to be taken is that it is a two-sided effort, so there should be dedicated team on both the side who will look after the agendas of the arrangement. It should be specifically measurable, what kind of gain. If say I am not allowing my supplier to access some of information, financial information, then how will the gain be calculated? So the program will flop. So it has to be very specifically defined, it has to be well defined, and effort from entity. It's not just the responsibility of suppliers, and there should be team who will be dedicatedly involved. So reasons of failure you need to know, precaution to be taken you need to know. Okay, so gain sharing arrangement according to me is important. And then outsourcing is another important topic that I feel. Outsourcing, that is basically subcontracting. There can be a question from outsourcing. There can be question from outsourcing. Here I feel that you should know this paragraph at least, advantages and disadvantages. See, sums you can always do. There are some non-financial considerations while thinking for make or buy or outsourcing. Both are same. And if you remember, those points are investment, capacity, focus, secrecy. You remember these points? Skill required, resources required, capacity available, okay, loss of control, know-how, all these points are there. Employee retention, okay, employee morale, all these points are there for understanding outsourcing, non-financial factors of outsourcing. This question was also asked in previous exam as well, so there is no much elaboration on this, but I want you to know the advantages and disadvantages. So what are the advantages of outsourcing? One is cost savings, another is frees up resources, third is flexibility, means you become more flexible, that you can meet more demand as if required. If you have good outsourced suppliers or say your subcontractors, then you can take big orders easily, because you have, if not having own capacity, you have capacity which others are having and they are tied up with you. So flexibility is huge when it is outsourcing. So when there is low market demand, you can immediately discontinue the contract, so that results in huge savings. So that's about flexibility. Disadvantages, as you know, risk of losing sensitive data, controls are lost, quality issues can be there, timely delivery, right quantity delivery, workforce retrenchment because of outsourcing may create strikes. Okay, so what is outsourcing? It is a business practice to reduce cost or improving efficiency. It is a business practice of reducing cost or improving efficiency by shifting jobs or process to another party, or purchase few of products or parts from outside for a span of time. So it's a cost saving or efficiency improving exercise. So outsourcing, I feel you should know. Okay. See, I'm just giving you some suggestions. Please don't rely that only this is going to come in exam. In case of JIT, there is a chance of JIT purchase. I think JIT purchase can be more important this time. I am not sure, but since purchase has not been asked yet, that's why I am saying JIT purchase. You can check JIT purchase, the sums on that. There is a sum in institute material related to that, so that you can check. If you want, you can make a note of some of the points. Okay, so I will just share with you some more points. JIT purchase, okay, business excellence model for theory. Here there is EFQM framework, European Foundation of Quality Management, and there are 8 fundamentals. Just discussing with you. You can just keep a note of this. Here we have 8 fundamentals, 5 enablers. Rather, I will say this is called as conceptual framework or criteria. Criteria is having 5 enablers and 4 results. And then there is a result assessment framework which is called as radar. So you need to remember all the details of this. Okay, what is business excellence also you need to remember. So business excellence is about your strengthening the management systems, process in order to create more value for stakeholders. You have to improve your management and process, okay, to create value for stakeholders. And for that there is a suggestion, EFQM framework, European Foundation of Quality Management. Okay, so it is having 8 fundamentals. It is having 8 fundamentals. You have to remember it is having 8 fundamentals. इसका भी एक निमोनिक्स मैंने बनाया था. I made a mnemonics. There is a popular club in Calcutta, CCFC, Calcutta Cricket and Football Club. So I thought when I was a student, I thought that life ka fundamentals should be CC and FC. So this covers 4 points. If you will check, you will get, just you can take the mnemonics. And I used to think in this way that whenever I will become a talented person, so talent of people is a point over there. So whenever I'll become talented, when I was in school I used to think this way. So whenever I'll become a talented guy, I have noted it somewhere. रात में just in night I was thinking about this. So yeah, I will take Ola and go to CCFC. Once I get the talent, I will take an Ola and go to CCFC. So this is a mnemonic to remember 8 fundamentals. There is a fundamental talent of people. O is for outstanding result, L is for leadership, A is for agility. CCFC, 1 is for creativity, another is for customers, F is for future, and C is for capability. Creativity, customer, capability, and this is future results, sustaining future results. So you have to read once to remember this. And 5 enablers are, you need to have a good leader in an organization. Leader is 1, and that leader should be having well defined strategy which is following in a disciplined manner, and that strategy should be implemented in a manner that empowers your people and process. Empowers the people and process. Okay, empowers the people and process and make such value adding process. 5 enablers, I am repeating again. 5 enablers are what? 5 enablers are what? I should be a leader with a clear cut strategy in a manner that I am empowering my people and aligning proper resources to them. Then what I get is I must produce value adding product and services. Value adding product and services with my strategy, people and resources. So there are 5 enablers: leader, people, strategy, resources and partnerships, resources and partnerships, and value adding products and services. Okay, so an organization needs strong leadership and strategic direction. They need to develop and improve their people, partnership and resources to develop value adding products and services. So that will result in 4 type of results. One is financial results, which we call as business results, and it will also satisfy all our stakeholders. So stakeholder results are people results, employee satisfaction. Then customer results is customer satisfaction. Society results is society satisfaction, and overall business results is our financial satisfaction. So 4 results are like this. So if you remember all these, then as per the question of case study, you can always incorporate some of the points from the question. Okay, so business excellence model, I feel that you should know. In case of TQM, the basic funda is, even if say quality program is coming unfavorable, you may still implement it for a long term goodwill or brand increase. If today quality program is giving you losses or costing you more than the benefits, then also you can implement it, because in long term it can give you more benefits. But there has to be a cutoff, which we call as optimum cost of quality. There has to be a cutoff when you are thinking about quality, because the more you want to reduce the defects, the higher would be the cost. Okay, so coming at zero level of defects is very, very costly. So somehow you can have optimum cost of quality in a scenario where your cost of conformance and non-conformance are equal. Okay, so if you remember, there is a concept of optimum cost of quality in TQM. Optimum cost of quality is saying that there is here, if it is defects, here it is cost. So cost of conformance and non-conformance. So the more the defect, cost of non-conformance is higher, and the lesser the defect, we read it this way, the cost of conformance is higher. This is conformance cost, this is non-conformance cost, and the combined cost is cost of quality. So you need to have a situation where cost of quality is minimum, and that is at the intersection of both, and this level of defect is called as tolerable level of defect, and this cost of quality is optimum cost of quality. So you cannot invest too much on quality, because quality is very costly if it is thought for achieving a zero level of quality, zero level of defect. So if you are thinking for zero level of defect, the cost of quality will be very, very high. So there has to be somehow some adjustment, that is a tolerable level of defect needs to be identified. Okay, so next, these are some points according to me that you should revise. You should also revise value shop model from your basics notes, which is for service industry. Value shop model. You should revise life cycle costing, that is cost and price impact in different stages, of life cycle, life cycle costing. Got it? You should also revise supply chain management. Supply chain management case studies you should also check. Key business process of supply chain, upstream management and downstream management. Key business process, upstream management and downstream management. Upstream and downstream. Okay, there is a bird's eye view which is given in this mat, which I have analyzed once. Interestingly, you see activity based costing, every term they are asking something. If November 18 they have not asked, they have asked in some other way through standard costing, I think. Advanced variance, just now I discussed advanced variance, nothing related to specifically advanced variance has been asked. Some investigation related question had come in previous term, which I have included in standard costing analysis. So I just wanted that you at least focus on those chapters which have not been asked at any time until now. Cost for specific sector is actually, we don't regard that much as a chapter right now, not so important, so I'll not mark it as star. Okay, so environmental management accounting is also important because every time they ask question. Activity based costing is also important because every time they ask question. Gain sharing arrangement, I am feeling that you should study it once. Okay, life cycle, you see every term they ask question usually. Next, not for profit sector or performance evaluation, these all are since belonging to same chapter, so this is again important according to me, but pyramid has not been asked yet, so it becomes more important. Then pricing strategies they ask usually every time. Okay, standard costing they will ask always, and supply chain management, that's why I was saying that you should study because it has not been asked yet. Theory of constant also you should study, it is a simple chapter and it has not been asked as yet. Got it? So theory of constant, one question is there in MTP also, you should check that as well. Okay, so these are some of the important chapters which I feel that you should study. You can just take a snapshot of this. Guys, thank you for your participation. I really enjoyed. I didn't realize that 3.5 hours has almost passed. Ashish Joshi is asking, sir, please explain Hejunka. So for Hejunka, there is a video of mine. But still, since you have asked, Hejunka, the video, if you want to see in details, it is cellular manufacturing. Okay, cellular manufacturing video you can check. There I have explained. Just in short, I will tell you now, since you have asked. Hejunka is a way of leveling the production or demand. Production leveling and demand leveling. Demand leveling is done how? See, I will estimate how many units I sell in a month of which and which products. Based on that, I will make a production schedule in a manner so that I don't run out of stock at any point of time, as well as my machine is not idle. So I'll make a schedule, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, something like this, okay? And then there will be product A will be produced 10 units every day. Then product B will be produced 2 units only on alternate days. C will be produced 5 units only on alternate days. So when I'm making a schedule like this for my machines, so that my demand is also met properly without loss of sales, as well as my stock is also not overstocked and my machines are also not idle. This kind of schedule is called as Hejunka. Hejunka is basically a Japanese schedule making process to ensure that the machines are optimally utilized, okay, and to ensure that the demand are always met from our production schedule. So it was first made by Toyota. Toyota was facing a scenario that they were having demand of cars in peak season more, and that they were not able to produce. So there was too much of waiting time for customers to take up the delivery. So what they started doing, first they started doing sales leveling. Sales leveling was done how? They made a sales policy by giving offers in different parts of the year, so that the people who were buying all the cars only during a festive season, they are buying car now throughout the year. So they did demand leveling. This is Hejunka, demand leveling, by giving offers, by doing door-to-door marketing throughout the year, not just during the festive season. So when they started doing marketing throughout the year, they did demand leveling, and then they did production leveling by ensuring that in some or other way all varieties of car are produced. Okay, that is production leveling. So I've just cleared the basic idea. You need not need more as of now. You can just write Hejunka is a way of leveling production or demand in case of JIT production system, especially in case of cellular manufacturing. In cellular manufacturing, what happens is we make a cell like this, whereby workers are working here in different steps, on different steps or process required in production. Here is the supervisor who is supervising everything from here in U-shaped format. Why U-shaped? Because he can see everything now. If it is not U-shaped, he cannot see everything. So now these cells are of limited capacity. They cannot produce large volume, but cell has got its advantages that it can produce different varieties easily. You can have different cells in your single factory, multiple cells in your factory. So each of the cell can be dedicated to a specific variety, but they cannot produce large volume. So that's how Hejunka is used to ensure that these cells are optimally utilized. Okay, so guys, please relieve me for today since you are having exam. If you need me, you can book a meeting with me. I'm available throughout the day, and in future also, if you want to interact with me, you being our student, you will be given priority. You can still book a meeting, okay? And then in future also you can interact with me face to face, online. That's the best way. You book my time in the calendar. I have allotted my calendar for you, and then we can talk. If by chance you miss it, then also that is not an issue. You can rebook it and cancel the previous. I wish you all the best for your exams. I tried just to add something today. I understood from beforehand only, you also understood today that I cannot make you revise the entire thing in one day in this kind of video. It is not possible for both of us, because everyone needs to revise as per their own understanding of the subject. There can be different ways of revising, okay? And some chapters better, some chapters in average. So I cannot have a standard revision class. Revision class can be just a class based on all the mindset, everything I need to discuss. You may be knowing some chapters very, very well. You remember everything very well. So you need not focus more on that. So keeping that in mind, I always understand that you cannot revise with me always a day before exam. I just knew that I can add something in your basket, not the everything. So I have given you an alignment, I have given you some direction. Now you follow that. Whatever you know well already, you don't give much time on that, but whatever you don't know, you are unable to recall, give some time to that, but don't get lost into that. Don't overdo that also. If you are feeling that something that has gone fully out of mind now, so don't try to overdo that also, or don't get lost into that. Try to maintain a balance, okay? Whatever you know, try to maintain a balance throughout all the chapters. Now when you are revising, I will only suggest that you should revise how. I will just conclude it by saying this. First, you revise the theoretical concepts of practical chapters as well as theory chapters. Theoretical concepts means the theories of practical sums also, and the theories of the theory portions also. First you complete that revision perfectly. It should take some time, and it will, okay? And if there are some chapters that are completely out of mind now, you have my SCMPE marathon revision videos on YouTube. Many of your friends are taking best use of it. You also take. They are all in description. You will see chapter wise timestamp has been done, so that you can refer in 2x speed. That will help you to recall the things. So that is step 1. You have to first recall all the concepts, theory and practical, and try to retain. Once any chapter is complete, try to close your eyes and see whether you are able to recall or not. If you are studying with a friend, maybe in WhatsApp, maybe in video, maybe together, then try to discuss. You revise chapter A, he revises chapter B, and he has done full chapter B, you have done full chapter A. Now take 10 minutes after chapter completion and you tell him about your revision, he will tell you about your revision, and then you swap the chapters. So that is also a way of revision. So everyone has unique way. And if say you don't have any friends, something like that, then you can tell it to yourself. First chapter A, and then tell it to yourself what you studied in chapter A. Then chapter B, then tell it to yourself what you studied in chapter B. See, there are two personalities. One personality is inside you, inside your head, who is inside, whom you are not able to see. He needs to remember. This personality needs to remember the things, because exam is actually given by this personality, not the personality that we are actually. You are supplying information to this personality. So when you are reading, you supply the information to this personality, and this personality inside you, your subconscious, should remember the things. Then only you will have a fruitful exam, because in exam your conscious will be writing, okay, your conscious will be reading the question, but answer will be given by your subconscious. So make sure that you ask your inside person also, what you have heard from me, what you have retained, please tell me. I have completed chapter A. Now close your eyes and see whether chapter A comes in front of your eyes or not. If it is coming, then your revision is going fine. Once theoretical concept is done, then just flip over your ICMAT case study question, or I will say our Divya Jadi Booty book. I think you must be having by now. If not having, then no problem, then follow ICMAT case study questions and past paper questions, whatever, how far you can go. Suggested that you should must do last two terms MTP compulsorily. Last two terms MTP compulsorily you should check. Okay, so that will give you some idea. Like there is one question here in MTP JIT related, that company is saying that head of the company has attended a webinar on JIT and is now keen to implement JIT purchase system in the organization, but the purchase manager said that our suppliers are not willing to supply that frequently and they want to supply in their specific lots. So what is your advice on to this company? So advice is JIT cannot be implemented because JIT purchase system is totally dependent on suppliers. If supplier is unwilling to supply, then how will you implement the JITs? The foundation of JIT purchase system is supplier. So that kind of answer will only click once you have read the answer, right? So isliye I am saying that you must go through in your revision span MTPs of last two terms, and this way only the revision will be complete. So first focus on quickly concept of all the chapter, and after every chapter give yourself 5 minutes and recall what you have studied. Watch number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. If say try to recall even the heading of the chapter. If heading of the chapter is not coming in mind, just check the heading and try to recall the context of the heading. But you have to retain, close your eyes, retain, tell it to yourself, and then switch to DJB book, or I say materials and MTPs and past papers, and there just check the question and understand the process. Okay, this is the question, okay, this is the process. Don't try to solve it and don't try to read it again. If you will read the entire solution again, you will get lost, you will not be able to cover. You have to cover all, try to cover maximum. Even if you read the headings of the answer, that is also sufficient now. If question is there, read the question, try to recall, okay, this question I remember, this is the point. If you have studied hard until now, if you have studied hard, you will be definitely able to recall all the points of that question. Okay, so this is the question, oh, these are the points I remember, okay, switch, next, this is the question, these are the points. If you don't remember, then just go through the headings and that's enough, that will be enough. Try to cover maximum, don't leave anything, because exam is very risky, it is very uncertain, no one can predict what will come, what will not. Fine, so see you, thank you so much, all the best, bye 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 bye. Ishita is asking, is degree of completion part of standard costing important? It's basic, just try to get the concept of degree of completion. Don't indulge yourself into sum solving. सर क्वेश्चन इंस्टीट्यूट सोर्सेज के क्वेश्चन से ही आते हैं, ऐसा ज़रूरी नहीं है. कहाँ देखा है क्या पास्ट में कि सारा इंस्टीट्यूट मैथ से ही आता है? कोई भी सब्जेक्ट में ऐसा होता है क्या सिर्फ इंस्टीट्यूट मैथ से आता है? दे क्रिएट न्यू क्वेश्चंस ऑल्सो, बट 40% पेपर इज यूजुअली your institute sources. So 40%, 50% will be doable, rest 50% will have to be done in the exam hall directly. For that you need to first remember all the concepts properly. Okay, all the best dear students, thank you so much for your time. In the description of this video there are some links, blogs. If you have not gone through it, you may go through it. The blogs are for revision schedule which I had prepared. How much time can be given to any chapter, so that will help you actually to plan if you have not allotted any time to any specific chapter. Okay, so you can accordingly plan the time schedule. And secondly, there is some discussion on writing pattern of case studies question. This video we have already released previously, so you should check that also once again before going to exam. Maybe 5 minutes, you can just download the PDF from there and understand the writing pattern, how to write, some meaning of analyze, evaluate, okay, or calculate, what are the meanings of the verbs that will be used in your questions. So those two blogs are very, very important. And if your preparation is complete and you have time, do watch the video of that student who had scored 85 in our previous examination, how he has written the answers. You just check that video as well. All these links are there in the description of this video. It will help you, so I thought I must give you. So you can refer the description video links or whatever links is there in the description. Okay, all right, thank you so much. See you soon. Bye bye.